I am walking in, and I'm pushing record, probably going to get shocked. Ouch! Yep, I got shocked.
So weird.
I think something's not grounded, and I think that's me.
We know you're not grounded.
I have no ground wire. Where's my ground?
I haven't run through any of the media for the entire setup, so this should be fine.
Yeah, we'll just make it up as we go. And the points don't matter.
Yes, indeed.
Is this just extra?
Yeah, that's extra.
Okay, I'm gonna put this right here.
What is it?
Can I put that battery right there?
Let's just put it back.
Okay, can you do it so I don't get shocked again?
Alright, got my rundown, I got the chat room.
Oh, sure, I get shocked.
Did you get shocked?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just me then. So I'm not the only person with grounding issues here.
Hello, chat room.
Hi, chat. Okay, we're good to go.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm ready too.
All
right.
The heck are we doing, man? We got 35 seconds before the top of the hour. Something's wrong.
My clock just changed to 10.
Oh.
Oh, that's a good point. I should dual screen this. Oh, dear.
Yeah, that's how I tend to. Just works a little easier.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
All right.
Why are you laughing?
Because the show's about to start.
Yeah, can you believe it? Stuff's about to happen. I'm just blown away by this. Oh my gosh. Come on, don't do that to me. There we go.
My name is Lisa, and...
Oh, and we'll be doing that again.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
That was weird.
It's not going to do it. Give me just a second.
Good morning. How's everything up in the sky?
That was yeah. Well, that sounds fine, but the other one was all weird.
No. Oh, hi.
Hello, see you later.
That was a quick segment.
Also, our YouTube says that we're having a Falcon Heavy discussion, so.
It both draws us together.
Are we just running through everything?
That was last week.
Falcon Heavy is so last week.
And threaten.
Besides, hopefully we'll get to actually see it this coming week, and we don't have to debate when it's going to happen anymore.
I hope so.
And that's our show. Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you next week.
Oh, man.
Nice.
We're totally professionals. Hello and welcome to the conversation. My name is Lisa and I'll be your host for today's show, but we also have Jared, our resident...
Take your time. Take your time.
Let's do that one again, sorry.
You're good.
I just practiced science so much, I was going to call you Athena, and you're not Athena.
I'm as tall as Athena, though.
You're our astronomer.
Yeah.
And Mike is our rocket specialist.
One of those
Okay,
people.
sorry everybody. Hello everyone and welcome to The Conversation. My name is Lisa and I'll be your host for today's show. We also have Jared, our resident astronomer, and we've got Space Mike, our rocket specialist, and we have Adada producing this show. Now, today in news we have...
A satellite that was long thought dead is now suddenly coming back from the grave.
And the space station's new faulty hand has been fixed, and cosmonauts also go on a record-breaking maintenance spacewalk.
And we also have an interview with James from Gilmore Space Technologies. And then in our third segment, questions and comments from our last week's show. But stay tuned because right now we have tomorrow's space. Oh, man.
You're fine.
I was going to call it experiment. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. That was like, we nearly had
okay.
it. Orbit
That's
10.
okay.
Oh, Orbit
I
11.
think, can we go? Oh, we probably can't go back to the interview, can we?
05.
The music overlay will prevent me from
Gotcha.
clipping that. So we gotta
Yeah,
go.
that's fine. That's fine.
Orbit 11.05. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're good.
This is tomorrow, orbit 11.0. Don't have to make the distinction of everything in space.
Oh, okay, cool. Because when I do science, I say this is tomorrow's science, whatever. But cool.
Even that you can do tomorrow. Discovery. All right.
Yep, cool. Hello and welcome to The Conversation. My name is Lisa and I'll be your host in today's show. We also have Jared, our resident astronomer, and we have Space Mike, our rocket specialist, and we also have Adada producing this show. Now, today in space news, we have...
A satellite that was long thought dead has returned from the grave.
And the space station's new faulty hand has been fixed, and cosmonauts also go on a record-breaking spacewalk.
And we also have an interview with Gilmore Space Technologies. Stay tuned. This is tomorrow, Orbit 11.05.
Good morning. How's everything up in the sky?
And welcome. So we also want to give a huge shout out to our Escape Velocity citizens of tomorrow that help crowdfund these shows. These are the people that give us $10 per episode on Patreon or $30 per month on Minds.com. They get access to our exclusive behind the scenes Discord channel and a host of all other really cool rewards. So if you would like to help and crowdfund the shows of tomorrow as well, head on over to patreon.com or makersupport.com/TMRO. Now, we always like to start off this show with some launches. So, Space Mike, what did we miss in the last week? What happened?
Before we get started on the launches from the last week, in case you guys are wondering, unfortunately Carrie Ann is sick this week, so Lisa was kind enough to step in and host for us this week. Thank you very much, Lisa, for being here. And so this week we want to talk about quite a few things that are going on at SpaceX. And this past week, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 rocket that launched a military-grade communications satellite for SES and the Luxembourg government. And this launch happened this past week on January 31st at 21:25 Coordinated Universal Time from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral, Florida.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Love that. Just so happens that this rocket was lifting off from Cape Canaveral on the 60th anniversary of the launch of Explorer 1, the first United States satellite. And the Falcon 9 launched a day after SpaceX had scrubbed a countdown to replace a faulty sensor on the Falcon 9's second stage. Pretty lucky coincidence, I think, anyway. The rocket's first stage booster, which was reused from a launch back in May of 2017, shut down and detached from the upper stage and went back for a descent into the Atlantic Ocean as planned. However, even though the first stage booster was outfitted with grid fins and landing legs, there was no drone ship deployed for the booster to land on. This was because SpaceX was testing the effectiveness of a high-thrust landing burn using 3 of its engines instead of just 1. Now, meanwhile, the upper stage, single-engine Merlin upper stage, shut down around 8.5 minutes and then reignited its engine about 18 minutes into flight to place the satellite, which is called GovSat-1, into an elliptical high-altitude super synchronous transfer orbit that stretches about 36,000 miles or 58,000 kilometers above Earth at its highest point. And then the satellite itself, using its own propulsion, is going to be synchronizing into its final geostationary orbit. Now, owned by Luxembourg, GovSat is a public-private joint venture between SES and the government of Luxembourg, and it's going to offer secure military communication services for Luxembourg, as well as the country's allies in Europe and NATO. Now, apparently, the first stage landing test did go well, and the booster did survive its water landing and was photographed there. And Elon Musk even wrote on Twitter, that's so cool.
Oh boy,
Elon Musk wrote on Twitter that hopefully the recovery team will be able to tow this first stage back to the port, and I'm curious to see what kind of damage was done to this. But yeah, that's really cool that test was successful and they were able to find it again. So
I just love that, like, they weren't supposed to recover it, and it was just supposed to crash in the ocean and sink to the bottom like every other rocket in history besides Falcon 9 and the shuttle. But this one survived. Like, I think that's incredible. But Mike, there were some more launches, right?
Yes, there were. There were quite a few more launches. Next, we had a Soyuz launch that was carrying 11 Russian, German, and U.S. satellites into orbit. And this was on Thursday, February 1st, from the Vostochny Cosmodrome, and it launched at 2:07 Coordinated Universal Time. This Soyuz 2-1A rocket was fitted with a Fregat upper stage, which was programmed to fire 7 times to deploy its 11 satellites into 2 distinct orbits that were several hundred miles in altitude, and then do a firing burn to break and be able to have a destructive re-entry back into Earth's atmosphere, ensuring that it doesn't create any space junk. Now, the primary payloads on this flight were the Canopus V numbers 3 and 4 Earth observation satellites. The 2 spacecraft, which each weigh about ½ a ton, will assist the Russian government in disaster response, mapping, forest fire detection, and resource monitoring. But aside from those 2 primary payloads, there was also 4 Lemur 2 CubeSats that were for the United States-based Spire Global's commercial space network that they're going to hopefully have a commercial communications network with these small CubeSats. And aside from that, there was also 4 nanosatellites for a technical university of Berlin, which are demonstrating S-band inter-satellite communication packages that would allow future constellations of spacecraft to conduct autonomous missions. And there was also a CubeSat for a amateur radio relay called D-Star-1 Phoenix that was developed by German Orbital Systems. And it's interesting because it replaces the D-Star-1 nanosatellite that was launched on a similar flight on the Soyuz that had an error back in November of 28th of last year, which also launched from Vostochny, but unfortunately the payloads were not placed into the correct orbit and quickly fell back to Earth. So it was cool to see that this launch was successful and that those 2 satellites and the secondary payloads were deployed successfully. So congratulations to Roscosmos for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. But there was even More launches, right, Mike?
Yes, there was. And seeming to be a little bit of an irritation to some people, we had another Chinese launch that happened this week that we need to talk about. But this one had a couple of commercial payloads on board, so we got a little bit more media and information from this one. I'm talking about a Long March 2D launch that launched 7 satellites into orbit, including 2 for some Argentina companies, and then 2 others that were for a company that is out of Denmark. We'll get to that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and check out the footage of this, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment here. The primary payload was Zhangheng 1, which is designed to measure seismic signals that could help predict future earthquakes. Now, this Long March 2D launched on Friday, February 2nd at 7:51 Coordinated Universal Time from the Jiuquan Satellite Space Center. And the primary payload is also called the China Seismo-Electromagnetic Satellite, which was developed in partnership with some Italian scientists. Now, there were 6 other payloads, and 2 of them were CubeSats for a company called GomSpace from a company that's in Denmark that I mentioned. But there was also 2 others called NewSat-4 and NewSat-5, which are hyperspectral imaging microsatellites owned by Satellogic, the Argentine company. And then there was also 2 CubeSats named FMN1 and Xiaonianxing, which were also launched for Chinese startup companies on this particular launch. So very cool to see another launch, and we're going to hopefully have a competition going on between SpaceX and China to see who launches more rockets this year, and I'm excited to see who wins. But there was also one other launch.
Oh, I was going to say, should we count it as rockets or cores that get launched throughout the year?
Good question. I think we should just count it as total rockets. We'll see.
Sounds good. So.
But we had of course, we're all looking forward to the Falcon Heavy launch, which hopefully will occur this upcoming week. It's been scheduled for February 6th, but, of course, rocketry is hard, and we'll see if it actually goes off on the first scheduled time. But even though the Falcon Heavy is a very, very large rocket that's debuting, there's another rocket that has debuted that has attempted to launch before, but this is a much, 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 much smaller rocket. In fact, it's an upgraded sounding rocket to be able to launch a 3-unit CubeSat into orbit. And this was done by JAXA, the Japanese Aerospace Agency. And there wasn't a whole, well, you'll see. This happened earlier today, actually, Saturday, February 3rd, at 5:03 Coordinated Universal Time from the Uchinura Space Center, which is on Japan's southern Kyushu Island. And this is pretty exciting.
2,
This rocket is the SS-520-5, which is a 3-stage solid-fueled rocket, and it's shot, of course, you might have seen that it's shot from a rail launcher there, and JAXA confirmed that the rocket successfully achieved orbit less than 4.5 minutes after liftoff, one of the fastest space shots ever carried out. But not only that, this launch carried a 3-unit CubeSat, which was called TRICOM-1R. And the whole idea behind this is that the whole reason that they're doing this is to get the price down for launching a single 3-unit CubeSat into orbit for less than $500,000. So I think that this is a pretty interesting project. And confirmation that the SS-520-5 successfully reached orbit was provided by JAXA about 3 hours after liftoff. And from the footage that you saw there, all we really saw was the first stage burning and didn't see much footage after that. So it wasn't known right away whether or not this launch was successful. However, after their report, it was also confirmed by the U.S. Joint Space Operations Center that they showed the SS-520 exceeding its orbital expectations, and that the rocket and the TRICOM-1R CubeSat were in a slightly higher orbit planned than the 200-kilometer orbit that they had reached there. So not only was it successful, it did better than initially planned. And the last time that we saw this rocket attempt to launch was from the SS-520-4 launch, which occurred last year on January 15th, 2017, and the second stage failed mid-flight. So this is very exciting that they were able to pull this off, and that the information has been confirmed that they were successfully able to place the upper stage and the CubeSat into orbit. So I really like to see on both sides of the scales of rocketry of having these really small nano satellite launchers and then the really big launcher that hopefully will be debuting this week as well. So congratulations to all the people at JAXA who've made this project happen.
I just love how it kind of just it rockets off the pad, and Destructor in the chat room, he said, and gone, just gone, because it just exploded off that pad. That was crazy.
Oh, that's solid motors for you. They're pretty potent. So.
Oh man, thanks, Mike. Jared, tell me about something that we lost that we now found again.
Yeah, it's always nice to have something come back to you, you know, especially if you lose it a really long time ago. And it's sort of the big surprise that's happened in the space science world this week, which is that a dead NASA mission is back, like some kind of orbital Lazarus coming back to us. And this mission is called the Imager for Magnetopause to Aurora Global Exploration Mission, and it's also known as IMAGE.
It's a mouthful.
Yes, a little bit. So I will call it IMAGE from here on out. It was launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base on March 25th in the year 2000, and it operated until December 2005 when they lost communication, and they expected a potential reboot to occur sometime in December of 2007. But it ended up yielding nothing as well, and the mission was officially declared dead and over. But lo and behold, last week, on January 24th, Scott Tilley, an amateur radio astronomer in British Columbia, happened upon a happy accident while observing the sky. He was actually hunting for signals from a potential payload that we've talked way too much about. Tuma! And he ended up finding an unexpected signal. And he contacted NASA very quickly, who locked on it and found that the ID code on that signal is 166, which is the same as IMAGE's code. Now, the expected peak of signal and the oscillations from IMAGE rotating were present as well. And then this week on January 30th, the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab had a go, and they were receiving telemetry from IMAGE. Now, NASA has said they're going to continue to work to make sure that the signals are actually from IMAGE itself, which would make it officially official that it's not quite dead yet. But don't get your hopes up too far. The hardware and software for IMAGE is old enough that it's likely not around anymore. But that's not going to stop the engineers from attempting to what would be the next step after official confirmation that IMAGE is back, which is attempting to turn the science package on and then receiving useful data from it. Because IMAGE was, after all, a science mission. It was sent up to study the magnetosphere and its interaction with high-energy particles that lead to auroras. Now, its legacy was carried on by the magnetospheric multiscale mission, which is 4 spacecraft flying in formation to gather data. Now, if IMAGE is able to return scientific data, it will allow observations between the 2 missions in detail that we could only dream about. So that is really exciting. Then just suddenly turned right back on, and it's like, hey, I'm here. What are you guys up to? What have you been up to? And they actually went back in what we call pre-covery, where they looked at data from before, and IMAGE was actually broadcasting as early as October of 2016.
Oh, wow.
So it's only just now that somebody actually noticed.
Just because we happened to be looking at that particular area.
Because they were trying to find with it. So, yeah.
I love that, it's amateurs getting out there that, helped to kind of find it and bring that back to life. What were you going to say, Space Mike?
I also kind of love how this follows the law of the universe, that we didn't find it and reestablish contact with this thing until we'd already sent up all of the replacement satellites to replace this scientific mission. So you don't find what you've lost until you buy a replacement for it. Isn't that the rule of the universe?
Something like that.
And speaking of replacing things, Space Mike, what's happening on the station?
Yeah, there was so if you remember last week, we talked about a faulty hand at the space station, which is the latch end effector that is at the end of the Canadarm. And there was a planned spacewalk that Mark Vande Hei and Norishige Kanai were going to conduct this past Monday to replace that latch end effector. And that was canceled due to a software patch over this past weekend that got the new hand working properly. So Vande Hei and Kanai are going to go on another spacewalk on February 15th to bring the old hand that they were going to swap out back inside the station for an eventual return inside SpaceX's Dragon capsule. Meanwhile, the people you see on screen are Russian cosmonauts Alexander Misurkin and Anton Skaplerov, who floated outside the International Space Station on Friday and installed an upgraded electronics box for one of the high-gain communications antennas at the aft end of the Zvezda service module. Now, the spacewalk was expected to last a little over 6 hours, but the work took a little bit longer than expected, and Misurkin and Skaplerov finally returned into the Piers airlock and closed the hatch at a duration of 8 hours and 13 minutes, which officially made Friday's spacewalk the longest in history for Russia's space program and the 5th longest spacewalk ever. So that was kind of a happy little accident that they had after all that hard work. Now, what they were doing, the electronics box that they replaced is used on the critical Lyra high-gain antenna that's used to transmit data between the station's Russian segment and Russian ground controllers near Moscow. And the cosmonauts, after they were able to replace it and untangle all of the different latches for it and all of the different wires and connections, they tossed the old Lyra electronics box overboard, so to speak, where it's going to be expected to burn up in the atmosphere in a couple of months. Now, after replacing the Lyra electronics box, and there he is tossing it over to the side right there.
I love it.
The ground controls.
Space junk.
for a little while anyway.
Nice.
Now, after they replaced the new box, ground controllers actually had trouble rotating the antenna because the new box was getting snagged on old radar equipment. So that's what took so long. The cosmonauts had to troubleshoot and move around a lot of different wires and hardware to accommodate the new electronics box so that the antenna could rotate freely. So that was a successful spacewalk there, and I'm glad that the latch end effector for the Canadarm was able to get fixed with a software patch, and that things should be able to continue moving forward. And the schedule for this year for the International Space Station is going to get really exciting near the end of this year. So all these little things right now are preparing for that. So we'll talk about that at a future date.
Yeah, I mean, I love that they still got to go outside and do that spacewalk, even though the Canadarm was fixed. It was still cool. They got to go outside, and we got all that cool footage. Like, that footage was amazing, and there was so much of it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But Jared,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about some burps in space.
Yeah, occasionally there are burps in space, not just from astronauts, but from actual objects that are out in space. And these burps are related to black holes. And what's very cool about this is that when we look at large galaxies and even some low-mass galaxies, we often find a supermassive black hole at their core. And this is a black hole with a mass that is millions, if not billions of times that of our own sun. And they have an appetite for destruction, but that depends on what's around them. And they tend to also throw what they're feeding on around a bit as well. So a team led by researchers from the University of Colorado Boulder presented at the 231st meeting of the American Astronomical Society. And by the way, that's a yearly meeting. So yes, this was the 231st year that the American Astronomical Society has met. And they saw a supermassive black hole in a galaxy called SDSS-J1354 plus 1327, doing the cosmic equivalent of a messy midnight run to the fridge. Now, there were two separate outflow events that were observed, and these are events where material comes close to the black hole. Some of it falls into the black hole, but some of it also gets flung out because it doesn't pass the event horizon, and it's moving fast enough that it can overcome that gravitational pull because it hasn't crossed that point of no return. So they found one that occurred quite a while ago and was sort of dissipating out into space, and then they found another one showing that there was recent activity. So we had two burps, if you will, that came from this black hole. Now, they used additional observation from the Chandra X-ray telescope, Hubble Space Telescope, and the Keck Telescope in Hawaii, and they found that a very large cone of material was extending about 30,000 light years from the bulge of the galaxy. Now, because the gas is ionized, it's really energetic, we can determine that it encountered the black hole about 100,000 years ago. And then coming from the north of the black hole was a shock wave of gas. And that was only about 3,000 light years away from it. So, and a companion galaxy close to J1354 likely interacted during the past. So what happened is that as the galaxies sort of went past each other, some gas from the companion galaxy likely was sent on a plunge of doom to be the black hole snack. Now, this actually isn't a unique structure in our universe. Our own Milky Way galaxy has the leftovers of a snack from our own supermassive black hole, Sagittarius A star, and it had it quite a long time ago. Now, these two bubbles of gas extend above and below the plane of the Milky Way, and that indicates that Sagittarius A star likely had its snack about 7.5 million years ago. Now, both our own supermassive black hole in the Milky Way and the supermassive black hole in J354 are what the astrophysicist Dr. Julie Comerford calls currently in a galactic food coma, where both of them are inactive because there's basically no material around them to fall in. But, you know, we monitor especially Sagittarius A star, our supermassive black hole in the Milky Way, and we have a very good lock on it, and we look at it all the time in order to see if there's any flare-ups or things that fall in to that black hole, and we're just keeping a very close eye on it because when we do that, we learn a lot more, and turns out black holes very far away across the universe work almost exactly like the black holes that we have here in our own Milky Way. So there you go, more proof that physics works exactly the same throughout the universe. So,
it's always good to be getting more and more data.
Yes, never enough data.
Never, ever.
So,
all right, that's all the news that we have for you today. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be interviewing Gilmour Space Technology. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with some expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving, through the heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
And welcome back to Tomorrow. Now, before we get into our interview today, I want to give a huge shout out to all of the citizens of tomorrow to help make this show possible. So we've got our Escape Velocity citizens. These are the people that give us $10 per episode or $30 per month on Minds.com. And we also have our Orbital subscribers. These are the people that give us, how much do they give us? A lot. They give us $5 per episode on Patreon, or they give us $15 per month on makersupport.com. And if you'd like to go help out the shows of tomorrow as well, you can head over to patreon.com or makersupport.com/TMRO. Cool. So today we have James from Gilmour Space Technologies with us. And James, thank you so much for coming and being on the show today for us.
And hi, everyone.
Cool. So I think to start off, the first thing that our viewers might want to be aware of is I don't think a lot of people might have heard of Gilmour Space Technologies because you're actually an Australian company, right?
Yes, so we're based in the land down under. For those of you who don't know us, Gilmour Space Technologies is a relatively new space engineering company. My brother and I started this venture in 2012, and we're based in Queensland, Australia, and we're developing and building a new breed of low-cost hybrid rocket launch vehicles.
That's awesome. So the vehicles that you're going to be launching, what kind of market are you trying to aim to fill there?
So, look, we're looking to have two, I guess, commercial products. One is a sounding rocket. Please, if your viewers wish, jump online. You'll see our first rocket that we launched successfully in 2006.
Is that the Raster rocket?
We did that with... Yeah, with the Ruster rocket.
Yeah,
so
we've got a
that
video
was,
of that, I think. This one here, I think, is our...
Yeah, so you're just seeing that now. So that was launched on the 22nd of July in 2016 to a small altitude. Essentially, that was a technology demonstrator in an attempt for us to look at some venture capital support. We did that with a small team of just 3 headcount. Today, we've got a staff of about 30, comprising majority of engineers. And we also have operations based in Singapore. But to get back to your question, Lisa, so our first kind of commercial product will be a sounding rocket. And some other footage you might have is of the motor that we just tested in the 22nd of December last year. So that was quite a significant achievement for our company. We achieved 45 kilonewtons of thrust. And I was hoping to have some more footage for you guys, but we've delayed our test, and we're looking at Wednesday of this week to perform a high pressure test that we expect to see about 70 kilonewtons of thrust. And essentially that will be our motor for our sounding rocket. And then after that, we're looking to develop a small launch vehicle to low Earth orbit. And our mantra, part of our reason is to design for cost and look at providing the cheapest orbital insertion vehicle around.
So the 2 programs that you have the, I believe it's called the aerial rocket, that's the sounding rocket, and then the orbital rocket.
That's the sounding rocket.
That's the ERIS program, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome. Why those names? Why did you pick those?
Well, look, I mean, those were just names based from a Greek goddess, and we just thought that was a nice name that was going to respond favourably to the marketplace. However, that is also subject to change, and we might be looking to put out a bit of a competition with regards to engagement of STEM in Australia to look at some of the naming rights for those future launch vehicles. So something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. Hopefully I can get involved in that too, being Australian myself.
I hope so.
You guys actually do a lot of outreach, don't you? You had a STEM outreach program for school kids, is that right?
Yeah, so to take you and your listeners a step back, I guess why we looked at a space or space technology, my brother and I, it started with Burt Rutan and Scale Composites after them winning the Lunar X Prize. We saw that as a bit of a shift in the market, and we're calling that a space renaissance, spurred on by a number of people that you and your constituents are well aware of. James Cameron, Bob Bigelow, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, who are all successful businessmen in their own right, who are putting vast sums of money into space technology. And we always wanted to build rockets, but we knew it was going to be a very expensive exercise, and we thought that we could generate some revenue with a space camp. So my brother and I think it was in 2010, went to Huntsville, Alabama, and performed in the adult space camp. And while that was great, we thought that we could do a better job. And so started what was the initiative called Spaceflight Academy. And essentially that was astronaut training as real as it gets. It was really for anybody that was 9 to 99. We had high fidelity mock-ups and simulators. We had a 6 degree of freedom motion simulator platform onto a reusable launch vehicle, which was a pretty cool one of its kind, particularly in Australia. A 2 degree of freedom full size capsule and a whole bunch of other multi-access trainers, wall climbs and stuff. And we did that for about 9 months, mainly with schools and whatnot from the local catchment, but we also saw their travel domestically from Melbourne, Sydney, and even Perth, which was good. But that helped with some of our exposure within the market, and upon them receiving $5 million in venture capital to support the rockets, we have put that on hold.
So as well as giving you exposure and leading to you guys getting investment, one thing I don't think people realized about your Spaceflight Academy is that you didn't just buy all of those simulation equipment and simulators. You actually built them, right?
Yeah, so one problem we encountered early on was that it was very hard to find anybody that had the capability to build some of our replicas and our mock-ups. So we originally started the company with the intent to design and build and fabricate all the high-fidelity replicas and mock-ups. So pretty cool, but a real shame for me, because they are sitting in our workshop gathering dust while we're looking at brokering local governments in order to see Spaceflight Academy come back to fruition.
Well, I mean, I hope it comes back as well, because I'd actually like to go and try out the simulators for myself, but we'll see what happens. Let's go back to the rockets that you guys are building. What kind of technology is going to set apart the rockets that you're making compared to the other rockets that we're starting to see come online?
Sure. So unlike most other rocket companies which use liquid rocket engines, they bring a lot of complexity and, what I think is a lot of problems attributed to rocket propulsion. Ours is a hybrid rocket, and which is much simpler, less complex, and less explosive, and very much a green motor. So for some of your constituents who probably don't know what a hybrid rocket is, but they probably do, it's a mix of both a liquid and a solid. And we've demonstrated over 20 test fires from diameters of 7 centimeter, 9 centimeter, 15 centimeter, and just recently a 46 centimeter hybrid rocket motor.
And the 46 centimeter hybrid rocket motor test firing that you were doing, is that the one that you just test fired a month or two ago?
Yeah, so our first test was on the 22nd of December. So that is going to be the backbone for the sounding rocket campaign.
That's awesome. I think we've got some footage here that we're going to show. So can you talk about what's happening in this footage?
Yeah, sure. The test and verification of our BEM ballistic evaluation motor. So that was a 15 centimeter configuration. The one there is, the one in the screen now is the test of the 46 centimeter motor. So this is from a hybrid rocket, and that white part that you see there is actually the solid combustion chamber that we use 3D printing to reduce and overcome some of the legacy issues associated with hybrid rockets in the past.
So are you 3D printing the engine itself, or are you 3D printing the engine and the fuel? Because you guys can 3D print fuel as well, right?
Well, look, we, could have 3D print all of it, but I think we're still a long way away from that. So essentially 3D printing takes its place in the full fuel component of the motor. And it's just, it's still quite a long and laborious process, but it's overcome some of the issues associated with hybrid rockets, such as slumping. So we're really excited, and we think that we've got what it takes to be a real propulsion game.
Cool. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys about was when do you foresee this program coming online? Like, especially the orbital campaign that you'll be pursuing. What's your kind of timeline for all of this?
Well, timelines in rocketry, as Mike already knows, is very speculatory in nature. There are a number and a myriad of complex, both internal and external factors that affect it. And look, I mean, subject to regulatory approval, that large motor that you saw tested, we're hoping to launch that mid this year, and that will be to an altitude of about 70 Ks. It does have the ability to go higher, but in Australia, we have some onerous and draconian rules associated with rockets. And once you go over 100 Ks, you trigger a lot of red tape and a lot of insurance that I don't think is fit for purpose. So we're looking to fly under the radar, so to speak. And we're also in the process of securing a launch range. And with that in mind, we'd like to start commercializing sounding rockets by 2019. We've already got some indicative letters of support and intent. So essentially, we're not like the you might see, we're going to show and prove ourselves. And once we verify our technology, that's going to give us our confidence for us to move forward and engage with the our customers that we've been speaking with. So
you're flying under the radar for now, but in the future, do you think you might have plans to work with or get support from the Australian Space Agency? Because we have a question from the chat room from Astro YYZ, who is asking, will you work with the new Australian Space Agency, the one that got announced in September of 2017 at the IAC conference in Adelaide?
Oh, look, good question, without a doubt. I'm also a big advocate, and I've been lobbying the government and the community for an Australian Space Agency for quite some time. I was part of, I'm an advisor to the Space Industry Association of Australia, of drafting some of the law papers for cabinet submission. And yeah, look, I mean, just to give your guys an update on that, the Arthur Senadinas announced a review of Australian space capability, and there was a expert review group that went around the country engaging with and industry and government looking at Australian space capability, and they have earmarked a report from those findings in March this year, which is quite exciting. And look, the establishment of an agency like that will take some time, and we're looking to ensure that there is a favourable landscape for companies like mine who are looking to create an Indigenous launch capability, and also support some of the great and innovative startup and getting established satellite manufacturer companies particularly in Adelaide, which you very much know about, Lisa.
Yeah, and I think here at TMRO we kind of have an all ships ride with the tide mentality that, you know, the more of a friendly ecosystem we have for space all around the world, it kind of helps everyone. So it's looking up for Australia to kind of finally get in the space game, and that's gonna have effects around the world, I think, especially if we can get, you know, small sat launches going as well.
Oh, look, 100%. I've got a philosophy that is deep with me, and that is, if you want to go fast, go by yourself, but if you want to go far, go together. And look, it might be a bit easier if we were to move and, you know, maybe start up in another country that's favourable to a launch provider, but we're not. I was born in Australia, and I'm going to do whatever I can to ensure that we can provide an indigenous launch capability. And I think that the biggest hurdle that we have to overcome as a space community is the education around some of the stuff that is happening and has the potential to happen both domestically and abroad. And I think that's a major element.
Are you planning to launch from Australia too, or will you be utilising worldwide launch facilities?
Oh, well, look, I mean, we were in Kennedy 2 years ago, looking at launch options and whatnot. There still might be an opportunity for us to launch from the Cape, which is quite exciting. They even said that we could assemble some of our componentry in the old VAB, which would just be, amazing. But I think there are some synergies to be had, particularly with orbital insertion from Australia, both to the north of the country and to the south of the country. So yeah, look, very, very much open, but logistically, it poses some challenges if we were to launch in America or abroad. But we don't.
Oh no, I think we're having some connection issues here. Hold on, everybody, while we try and get this back. The bandwidth in Australia is something to be desired, so this connection is coming across an ocean. Fingers crossed we can get James back. And we've dropped out.
And it's gone.
It's gone. Well, I think what we might do is we might wrap that interview up there, and what we're going to do is take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have our questions and comments from last week's show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Science. It both draws us together and tears us apart. Brings discoveries to cure us and threaten us. It is neither good nor evil. It is what we decide to make of it. There is so much more to learn, and we are curious. Together, let's explore the science of tomorrow.
Lisa, we have James back if you want to try to finish that up.
Yeah, that would be good. We should
clip that together.
Yep, cool. And then Ben can just cut it.
Yeah,
all right.
Just another minute or two, and then our normal questions.
Cool. But we moved the chair. That's going to be noticeable, right?
Yeah, it is what it is.
Oh, all right. Cool. Sorry about that, James. We lost you for a second there.
No, no mistake.
No, that's all good. So I might just finish off with one last question, just about the kind of price point that you see your launches coming at, and how that might enable, the small sat kind of revolution and help open access to space for small satellites.
The good old price point discussion in launch vehicles. Yeah, look, I mean, our mantra is to design for cost. If you look at our factors of production with regards to hybrid rockets, they are traditionally safer. We don't need a turbo pump, or we don't need to cryogenically store our fuel. So that always helps when you're trying to mitigate costs. Hydrogen peroxide.
Right, cool.
So you can store that at you need appropriate PPE, which is personal protective equipment and whatnot. But it's not as dangerous or as toxic as some fuels in liquids or solids. And speaking of price, there's been a lot of if you want to talk about the heavy end of the scale, we're looking at about $23,000 to $38,000 per kilogram for a max payload of about 400 kilograms. And we think that we can achieve that because of some of, like I mentioned, factors of production with hybrid rockets. And the other thing I would like to mention is with some of the other established companies, they have huge headcount. You're looking at over 400, 500 people for a vehicle that hasn't even launched there. And that's,
And we've lost him again. This is the nature of Australian internet. Nope, we're not getting him back. Well, I think we'll hold on for just a little second. If we don't get James back, then we'll head into comments from next week's show. And we've lost him again. All right, everyone. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have comments from last week's show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
American astronauts Borman, Lovell, and Anders are whirling about the moon on this Christmas Eve, further away from home than man has ever been.
At the time that we did it, I don't think we fully understood the significance of the very first flight to the moon.
All right, you are go for TLI, over. Roger, understand, we're go for TLI.
When you stop to think about the mission we were given,
we choose to go to the moon.
That was a remarkable challenge.
I remember looking down through the grating and thinking, this is a big rocket.
It's kind of eerie to go down to that big Saturn V on launch day. It's loaded with about 5.5 million pounds of high explosive.
Launch vehicle almost came alive.
I only got scared twice in the flight, and the launch was one of them.
1, 0. We have liftoff. Liftoff at 7:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
First flight on the Saturn V, first to leave the Earth, so there really wasn't much to wring your hands about. I thought we had about 1 chance in 3 of having a successful mission.
The greatest accomplishment was doing what the president had asked us to do within the time frame that he asked us to.
What did it really mean, getting a true perspective where we were, 3 guys just 240,000 miles from the Earth?
Something caught my eye out of my window, and I said, hey, look at that, and it turned out to be the Earth coming up over the stark lunar horizon.
And I thought, how insignificant we all are. Everybody I ever knew. 5 billion people could be behind my thumb as I put it up.
I think it's ironic that we went all the way to the moon to explore the moon. What we really discovered was the Earth.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void.
And welcome back to Tomorrow. Now, before we get into our questions and comments from last week's show, we'd love to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of the supporters of Tomorrow. These are our crowdfunding supporters, our Escape Velocity citizens, and these are the people that give us $10 per episode on Patreon or $30 per month on Maker Support. But we also have our Orbital citizens who contribute $5 per episode on Patreon or $15 per month on Maker Support. And we also have our Suborbital citizens who give us $2.50 $1 per episode on Patreon or $5 per month on Maker Support. And they get their name in the show during the third segment, exclusive access to Patreon-only hangouts, and much, much more as well. So if you'd like to help crowdfund the shows of tomorrow, you can head over to patreon.com or makersupport.com/TMRO. All right, and before we do get into comments and questions from last week's show, we also want to give a huge shout out to the First to the Moon Kickstarter campaign, which is the little promo that you just saw in that ad break there. They're going to be doing some great work, right, Jared?
Yeah, I really hope that they can make their Kickstarter because Apollo 8 was an incredible mission and came at a really tumultuous time in American history too. So it was very important culturally in that time period. So I really hope that they make it on that.
They've got a few more days left in their campaign, but they're not quite at their goal yet. So if you have the ability to, and only if you do have the ability, and you think it's a great thing that you'd like to support, we recommend heading over to Kickstarter and looking up First to the Moon. It's going to be a great movie, and we wish them all the success in their crowdfunding campaign and in the production of that movie.
Yeah.
All right, so our questions and comments from last week's show. Last week we talked about SpaceX's Falcon Heavy. That was orbit 11.04. And our first comment today comes off of Reddit, and it is from Cap MSFC. And Cap MSFC says, the Ariane 5 launch anomaly is a way bigger deal than you made it seem in the show. It was completely out of the flight corridor the whole time and flew over populated areas. The SRBs, solid rocket boosters, and core stage were dropped way outside of their exclusion zones. This flight was a public hazard and should have been terminated as soon as it pitched over on the wrong trajectory. It's a dumb luck of compounding mistakes that the mission is only a partial failure, with both sats able to make up for the inclination difference.
Yeah, it was a really big problem after it happened. But I guess to kind of qualify this comment came 4 days after our show, where we talked about it, which when we did our show, this was not a known thing at the moment. We didn't actually know what the trajectory was of the Ariane 5. We didn't realize that it crossed over populated areas as it was doing that. So we legit did not know this. And of course, it's kind of tough to update a show when you've done it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And to the idea, too, that it should have been terminated as soon as they figured out that it was in the wrong trajectory. They didn't know that it was in the wrong trajectory until they reestablished contact with the upper stage and satellites after the upper stage had already finished its firing and the satellites had separated. So to be honest, there wasn't really a way to even terminate the launch, which I agree, they probably should have done that, having launching and separating parts of it overpopulated areas, but they didn't even have the capability to do so. So yes, this was very serious. And one other thing that I think, NASA even is going to be involved with the investigation of this mishap, especially considering that the James Webb Space Telescope is supposed to be launching on Ariane 5 soon. So there's going to be a lot of serious work to figure out exactly what this problem was. And I still haven't gotten any updates, though, as to whether or not the rest of the Ariane 5s, at least before James Webb, are going to continue launching as planned, or if they're going to ground the fleet for a little while. What was your point, though, that you were going to say, Lisa?
Well, the two problems that I was going to say is, first of all, that they didn't know it was on the wrong trajectory. Like, how can you not know where your rocket is? Like, that to me is crazy pants. Like, and then the second one is that, like, even if they had have terminated it when it was flying over those people, if they had have broke it up, like, above people, then wouldn't the debris rain down on people like a China launch? Like, isn't that dangerous as well?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things where they're talking about too, not just necessarily with this, but also with that claim made by the Air Force a couple weeks ago, which is that they're going to be able to do polar launches out of Kennedy Space Center, because that has the rocket, hug Florida and go over places like Bermuda and Cuba in order to do that. So yeah, it is kind of one of those things where if it is over a populated area, that's a very tough decision to make as to whether you terminate the flight or not. Because if it's flying correct attitude, and it's just on the wrong path, you may not want to terminate it because the rocket may continue downrange, so then you can send it to a safe place to terminate it. But terminating a rocket is really a game time decision. That's a decision that you make not 60 seconds before you terminate it. You have to. It's sort of like a on the spot kind of determination with it. So
yeah, and in our chat room, the Therion said that they did know that the trajectory was wrong actually, and that they decided not to destroy the rocket because the debris would have fallen on the populated area.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that Arianespace knew the trajectory was wrong. We didn't know until a couple days after the failure that happened. So there was really no way for anyone in the public to know that had occurred. Sure, you can look at like screens of stuff and everything, but there was definitely, if you look at you can look at screenshots of the trajectory screens in mission control, and it is definitely not on the correct trajectory, but there's not enough detail in those images to tell whether it was actually over a populated area or not. That's why we had to wait until later to find out about that. So yeah. So
all right, I think we've talked that one to death a little bit.
Yeah. So although it's the new Zuma. So
Mike, what were you going to say?
Well, go ahead and get to the next comment, and you'll see what I mean.
Okay, so the next comment comes off of YouTube, and it's from SP123100. And they say that, I found it concerning how the Ariane 5 launch commentary just carried on reading out the milestones. Although I'm sure that they just show stock footage of booster and fairing separations, I believed Arianespace were a little more transparent, or at least they present themselves as such. I might have expected this of a Russian or Chinese launch, but I feel that Arianespace had lost a considerable amount of webpass credibility over this. SpaceX have shown that sharing failure is almost or as important as sharing success.
Yeah. I'll agree that I found it concerning as well, but I mean, we might not necessarily be able to blame the webcast announcer because they were just doing their job and continuing things forward as they thought that they should have been. So once that person was informed of the problem, they said so, and they stopped the webcast shortly after and had the whole statement by Stefan Israel. So as soon as that person who was giving out those calls was informed, then yeah, they corrected themselves. But I also found that it was pretty kind of concerning as well, even though the data showed the things that they had lost contact with it and that they weren't getting telemetry. So yeah.
I think it's important to be kind of like, you don't want to mislead people, right? Like, you want to show them the webcast, you want to get them excited about space, but you also don't want to feel like, that you're just kind of pushing this, everything is perfect, we're going completely nominally message when it's obvious like that you're not. So. Yeah,
there's been a tremendous amount of hindsight as 2020 about this whole situation as it was happening, or post after it had happened. So yeah, it's yeah, go ahead, Mike.
And all I'm just saying is let's try to give them the benefit of the doubt that they weren't trying to necessarily mislead us on purpose.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they might have been getting ratty data for all we knew. So we don't have the actual data in front of us. So I feel like I can't make a determination as to whether they were intentionally or they just genuinely didn't actually know at that time. So because we don't know what the quality of the data is. Arianespace does, and they're probably not going to let you see that because that's how the aerospace industry works. So you don't just throw your data out there for everybody to take a look at in most cases. So yeah, who knows? So it's just another one that will go out into the aether of the universe, and we'll find out probably 50 years down the road what actually happened. So.
Well, fingers crossed. They've got their data, they look at it, they work out what went wrong, and they fix it, and we see Ariane launches continuing long into the future. So all the best to them, and good luck with their investigations.
Yeah.
So our next comment comes off of YouTube. It's from Louis Hen. This will also be the first time a private space company sends a payload beyond GTO, and they're referring to Falcon Heavy here.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this is correct.
Isn't that exciting?
Because I was doing some Googling, and Falcon 9 launched Discover to L1, right?
Yes.
Which is beyond GTO.
Yes. But I think in this case they're talking about a private company sending a private payload beyond GTO. And I actually don't think that's correct entirely, because there were several... There have been several geostationary communication satellites that were put in the incorrect orbit, and the teams that were flying them ended up flying them around the moon in order to put them into the correct orbits.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know if this is entirely true, but I'm not sure if I'm entirely correct in questioning that either. I know the comments will definitely correct us if something like that happens, but yeah, I don't know.
What's going to be the first one to send something to a near Mars orbit, right?
Yeah, I think
Martian flyby for sure.
Yeah, this would definitely be the first private thing sent on escape velocity for sure. So yeah. But yeah, I don't.
If it gets there successfully.
Yeah, I don't know about GTO, but definitely heliocentric orbit on purpose. Yes. So.
Well, fingers crossed it launches. Currently slated for Tuesday, so all the best to SpaceX, and hopefully
good luck.
It'll go successfully, and we can make more comments on that next week. All right.
Yeah,
the next comment comes off of Reddit. It's from Kubrick is my co-pilot, who says, ultimately, the only way to improve safety is to fly. Too much emphasis on modeling means that all you're doing is building a pyramid of assumptions, some of which evaporate the moment they make contact with reality. Ironically, it will be the organizations and institutions willing to take risks that will advance safety the quickest. Those who demand guarantees up front before they will even try, will be left in the dust.
Yeah, you gotta fly in order to make sure things are gonna work. So, and it's important to fly. How would I put it in flight testing? It's important to be methodical with your progress that you do. So, so something like the space shuttle with STS-1, the first flight to Columbia, we're going to stick a crew on it and go with it. I don't know if that would be a good way to go about things nowadays. Yeah. You could probably get away with that back then because of the culture that was around at that time, which is a fascinating thing if you ever want to study the culture of the safety of spaceflight, especially at NASA in the early 80s. It's fantastic to understand. It's an important point, but you also have to err on the side of caution because if you start losing payloads, you tend to also start losing customers. And you also don't want to lose your customers as well, especially like your actual physical customers themselves. So,
living, breathing ones.
Yeah. So, space
ironically, I think it's funny that you said that sort of thing wouldn't happen today. The jury's still out whether or not there's going to be a crew on Exploration Mission 1, the first flight of Orion and SLS together. So,
as far as I understand, Space Mike, the cost to accelerate the safety for Exploration Mission 1 has pretty much ruled that out. So. At least
the cost, yes, that has definitely was going to be way too much, but it hasn't officially been decided yet, as far as I knew. I could be very wrong on that.
Yeah, I might be wrong too. So
still, the fact that they were even considering it in today's day and age, especially since Orion has a way lower safety standard than even SpaceX and Boeing Starliner does. So just ironic.
Space Call in the chat says, "I'm fine as long as it explodes. I'm fine if it explodes as long as they learn something." This must be in relation to Falcon Heavy, but I guess it applies to crewed vehicles as well. As long as they learn something, I just hope it explodes after it clears the launch tower.
Yeah, that works pretty good in flight testing. Not so much in like actual
and people
stuff. And yeah, like people, you tend to not want your thing to blow up.
Let's not have it explode.
So yeah.
All right, our next comment comes off of YouTube, and it's from Rabinda Mishra, who says, "I wonder if NASA could make their Deep Space Gateway design flexible enough that it can be assembled using Falcon Heavy. Same goes for their lunar plans. Imagine how much more can be achieved than if we had to wait for SLS to fly, which would be never." No, kidding. SLS can still be built for deep space missions like Europa Clipper, Uranus and Neptune orbiters, etc.
Yeah,
go for
it, Space Mike.
I think so. I think that they, the way that, and of course the design hasn't been finalized yet, but the way that the designs are moving forward so far is definitely flexible enough that at least some of the pieces, maybe not all of the pieces, but a lot of the pieces could be launched on Falcon Heavy. But even with some of our international partners, I mean, there's some Japanese pieces that are going to be launched on H2A or the H5, whichever comes online first. And even with our Russian partners, they're planning on launching their pieces of hardware either on Proton or an Angara 5. So why not? Why not Falcon Heavy in that mix as well? We don't have to launch all of our pieces with SLS. The whole thing with the architecture right now is launching a piece of architecture for the Deep Space Gateway with an Orion capsule and maybe even like a logistics module full of cargo or something like that, all in one launch. You could send just the piece of architecture itself, in a single launch on a Falcon Heavy, depending on which piece we're talking about. So we could go into that quite a bit and go over like all the weights requirements and stuff that exists so far, but this is still a work in progress. But I don't see why Falcon Heavy couldn't be used for a lot of it.
Do you think that if we, allowed those things that are supposed to fly on SLS to fly on Falcon Heavy, should we start launching them on, Delta IV Heavies and stuff as well? Because I guess you don't want to kind of favor SpaceX, although they are cheaper, but like shouldn't it go to all US launch providers and not just kind of SpaceX, so we're showing favoritism?
Stuff like that kind of depends on how far along you are in the development of your payload. After the Ariane 5 anomaly, I guess we're going to call it, there was a huge voice that was like, switch James Webb to Falcon Heavy, switch James Webb to Falcon Heavy. And it's like, that's not how that works. You design your payload to deal with the environment that your launcher is going to be subjecting it to, both in like your loads that you're going to have, your acoustical issues and things like that, the vibration environment and things like that. So it's really dependent upon where you are in the development of your vehicle, or your payload. So if you're in something like as far along as the James Webb is, where we're going to be hopefully launching it next year. We're too far along in development. But something like Europa Clipper, which is being developed at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory here in Pasadena, it's early on in the stages of development. It's being baselined for the Space Launch System, but they also do have the ability with that mission to put it on a Evolved Expendable Launch Vehicle. With that there, I can't recall ever seeing them talking about putting it on a Falcon 9 or a Falcon Heavy, and that probably has to do with certifications or something well beyond my current understanding. But yeah, you can't just like switch a payload because you feel like you want to switch it. Or because, hey, it's like going to two different car dealerships and saying, you're going to give me this for this? And then running to the other one and saying, hey, they're going to give me this for this. You want to cut it lower? And they drop it and you run back, hey, you want to give me lower than what they're doing? Like that. Yeah, it's a little difficult to kind of negotiate simply because a lot of the times the design work says the design work that you start with is baselined for a certain launcher, and that launcher has characteristics about it that are different from every other launcher. It's a wholly unique thing. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to do that. It would be so cool to have like a modular system that would allow us to plug and play on all these different rockets depending upon what we need. But
there's a business idea, guys. Someone go and start the payload adapter company of tomorrow.
I have an idea.
But you know what? It raises a good point. If you say that
be a used rocket salesman,
let's send up the Deep Space Gateway on like Heavy instead of SLS, then you get this question that Jaded Animal from Twitch says in the chat room: you've got to use SLS because otherwise, if you don't, people will start to ask inconvenient questions like, why do we need SLS at all then if you can put all its payloads on Falcon Heavy, right? So you've got to kind of had missions put in there to go on SLS and Europa Clipper as well. So that SLS has a reason to exist, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of sad.
Yeah, and there might be advantages to using SLS as well, so that we don't know about yet, because not everything is with the upper stage that's being worked on beyond the one that they're currently looking at putting on it. I think it's called the Evolved Upper Stage, Space Mike?
Yeah. And that one is a weird story, too, because they already developed the J2X engine for it, but shelved it and put everything on hold with the program in favor of the upper stages that they're going to use first on the SLS program. And so that's probably going to have to be completely restarted if they're even still planning on using the J2X engine for stuff that would like be heading to, Mars or beyond. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
We'll see.
Man, this stuff's complicated.
It's space flight, right?
Man.
Space is complicated. All right, that's our last comment. So before we head off today, we want to give a very big thank you to our ground support patrons. These are the people that give us $1 per episode on Patreon or $1 per month on makersupport.com. They get their name in the show during the third segment, as well as a few other rewards. So if you would like to become a crowdfunder of tomorrow, head on over to patreon.com or makersupport.com/TMRO. All right, everyone, that's our show. After Dark is up next. And, yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
We're crazy. Just a bunch of crazy kids.
There you go.
What is going on? Don't make me turn this car around.
Oh, man.
If y'all don't start behaving.
Oh, sorry, space station. Sorry.
Are we going to be all right with that interview? Like, I didn't really get out of it very gracefully. I don't know what to do there. Do we still have James on the line?
No. We'll have to make do with what we got.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right, I'm going to go in and send a text to James.
Was he on Wi-Fi?
Probably. He was traveling, so I think he was probably in a hotel.
Ow.
Man. All right, I'm going to...
Guest facts exist for a reason, and the part that they never read is to not be on Wi-Fi.
Well, I mean, if you're in a hotel, you got to do the best you can,
Be not on Wi-Fi. Hotels
back.
Hotels have Ethernet cables.
True.
Also, sorry, YouTube. I think we forgot to change the title of our show for this week. So it's discussing Falcon Heavy.
Right. Do you guys want to do your space pods and whatnot?
Daddy Della is angry. No, I'm not angry. Just frustrated.
Whoops. So, I'm all alone. It's my show now. So here we go. Hello and welcome. How's your day going? Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's a little warm in here.
That's a first.
Well, the Higginbothams aren't here, so.
Yeah, Minnesota left.
All right. Oh, ow! Everything hurts. That's how committed I was to the clapping. Everything hurts.
You're used to it being like 66 degrees in here, and it's 71. So
Man, I'm out of shape. That clapping made me tired. Here comes the air. It's been hot of late.
I did good today.
It's like been like 80 degrees.
Changed camera angles and zoomed, focused, and everything.
Oh, God.
So,
Yeah, the Mohawk will be back. So don't worry. Probably April. I think that's when it's coming back, sometime around then. It needs to be longer than I have when I've had it come back before. So. Yeah, where's my smoking jacket? Where's our martini glasses? We should start drinking again.
We should.
So that's a very important. I mean, alcohol is a solution.
Well, because you can drink now, right?
What's up?
We went through a time period where you couldn't drink. So.
Well, I mean, I could, but it would damage my liver significantly faster than just drinking alone would do.
That was very, very much not advised.
Yes. It was considered poor form. So
that would have violated rule number 1.
Yes, it would have, actually. But not immediately. Further down the line, it would have violated rule number 1. But now I don't have to worry about that. So, yeah. What chat do we read the comments from? We have access to the comments from our own chat at chat.tomorrow.tv. We have access to the comments from Twitch, which is where I saw yours, mine, Cozy. And we have access to the YouTube comments as well.
Chat from everywhere.
So
we've got Facebook on there too, no?
Yeah, do we?
I think so.
I don't think anybody's talking on Facebook though.
We got all the chats.
We got them all. So I'm really surprised that they're not doing another static fire with Falcon Heavy. I thought they were going to need.
Right.
I thought they were going to need at least one, but I guess everything went okay. So. Wow.
And if it goes off successfully, then yeah, Everyday Astronaut would have been right.
Yeah, and I'm going to eat my words.
Next thing would be the launch.
Going to eat my words for like the 100th time on this show. So. I'm happy to be back too.
All right.
All right. Oh, it's yours right now, Space Mike. So.
Are we ready to do space pods?
You don't have to move because.
Oh, I gotta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't have to move because he's gonna be on the thing with the thing.
We got a valve dump about to happen. So.
Got some boil off.
For Pete's sake.
Yeah, some boil off.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez. This is some in situ resource development.
Space Mike, let's get you done and not have Jared talking about pressure equalization.
All right. Okay. The X Prize Foundation has officially acknowledged that after 10 years of work, the 5 remaining teams in the Google Lunar X Prize are not going to be able to complete the competition, and the prize is going to go unclaimed. And we need to talk about this a little bit. This is your Space Pod for Tuesday, February 6th, 2018. The Google Lunar X Prize, which the first place winner would have gotten $20 million and the second place runner-up would have gotten $5 million, to privately land a lander and a rover on the moon and travel their vehicle 500 meters across the surface of the moon. Can we start over and go straight to my first graphic?
You didn't match.
The Google Lunar X.
You didn't match script, which is why I didn't. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Should I just start over then from the beginning?
No, just take it from you've done your intro.
Okay.
You got.
All right, we'll just take it from here then. Yeah.
And I'll pick up
okay. The Google Lunar X Prize, which would have had a privately built vehicle land on the moon and travel 500 meters across the surface, would have won, the first person to do so would have won $20 million and the second runner-up $5 million. The competition was announced on September of 27, and you know what, I'm sorry, let me start over again. I can't talk for some reason. The Google Lunar X Prize, which was announced in September of 2007, was a competition to have a privately built vehicle land on the surface of the moon and travel 500 meters across the surface while sending back high-definition video. And the first person to do so, the first team to do so, would have won $20 million, and the second would have won $5 million. And the competition had a deadline of 2012 for any private team to be able to accomplish this goal. 34 teams originally registered and slowly withdrew or merged as the years went by. Eventually, as the deadline was extended multiple times and the conditions for staying in the competition changed, the teams were whittled down to about 5 teams last year who hoped to win the race by March 31st of this year. The team that looked closest to being able to pull off that deadline was Team Indus, who had signed a contract with Antrix, which is the commercial arm of ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, to launch their lander and rover on a PSLV rocket. Unfortunately, Team Indus was unable to raise the money required to pay for the launch, and it's not known exactly how far along their flight hardware had progressed anyway. They raised about $30 million out of the $90 million required for the launch. And Team Hakuto from Japan was partnered with Team Indus and was scheduled to fly along with their lander and have a little bit of a race once they got to the surface and see which one of their respective rovers would travel 500 meters first. Interestingly, Hakuto has raised recently $90 million of seed money thanks to a partnership with a group called iSpace, but apparently those funds will not be applied to the PSLV launch and will be used to hopefully restructure Hakuto. Now, there was other teams as well. Of the remaining 5 teams, Space IL, the Israeli company, is floundering and is seeking $30 million to stay in business. And then Team Synergy Moon doesn't have a functioning rocket that could take their lander to the moon or even Earth orbit, and it's unknown what progress they had on their lander or rover in the first place. However, Moon Express, which is scheduled to launch on Rocket Lab's Electron rocket, but not before the March 31st deadline, is looking forward positively to their commercial missions regardless of the outcome of the Google Lunar X Prize. Even NASA has signed a contract for scientific payload to be launched on their early commercial lander. And Moon Express and also former teams like Part-Time Scientists and Astrobotic are continuing to improve their plans and start a commercial lunar industry. If successful, especially considering larger sample return missions like this Moon Express concept that's pictured, then the bright side of this competition is at least that there are a few companies who are moving forward and could be part of a really exciting lunar future, especially considering the recent refocus of NASA to go to the moon as a stepping stone first on the way to Mars, as well as all of the international interest in lunar missions, human and robotic. Although it's very disappointing to have followed the Google Lunar X Prize for so long and see the prize go unclaimed, I am excited for the possibilities that the remaining companies have, and excited that at least a few of them have the will to press on and try to be part and start a lunar commercial industry. And I, for one, of course, am enthusiastic about all projects. And so despite this disappointment that the Google Lunar X Prize will go unclaimed, I'm still very excited for some of these companies' futures, like Moon Express, Part-Time Scientists, and Astrobotic, and I really hope that they will be part of a larger space future, enabling us to go to the moon, both robotically and send humans there as well. In any case, that's what I wanted to talk about this week for your Space Pod. Be sure to check out our last live show, episode 11.05, where we talked about a very interesting project coming out of Australia. I actually need to close this again because I'd already forgotten the name of the company. Dang it. I was doing so good, too. Gilmore Space Technologies. I wanted to say Garvey, and I knew that was wrong. All right, I'm going to pick it up from despite the disappointment.
I don't think you need to. We can cut that together.
Okay. In any case, be sure to check out our last live show, Orbit 11.05, where we had a really interesting interview with Gilmore Space Technologies from Australia, who are developing a hybrid solid rocket. So be sure to check that out, as well as every live episode that we have every Saturday at 1800 Coordinated Universal Time. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave your comments and let us know what you think about the end of the Google Lunar X Prize. But until then, keep moving onwards and upwards, everybody, and don't forget, Ad Astra. To the stars. Okay, what do you think? Think we can cobble that together?
Yeah, I'll put a couple editing notes in there for Ben.
Okay.
Jared. Turn your mic off. Jared, did you turn your mic off? Your microphone.
It's back on now.
Yeah.
So you should have me.
So
were they small or startup? Gotcha.
Stop. I don't really know the definition between when a startup is not a startup. Weird.
either chair?
Yeah, he's got to. Jared, you need
Yeah, I'm gonna move. I'm sorry.
You need to move.
Here I am.
And pull the TV back.
All right, here we go.
Good.
Yep, science is coming up once I'm done here, so.
And pull that other chair out of seat.
So I'm gonna take about 20, 30 minutes to get this right. So, Mike, you're over there now.
So exciting. You get to do all kinds of stuff. You see,
It was a very thorough space pod, Mike. Fantastic.
Jared, look at camera.
Oh, he's gone. So.
Bye, Mike.
Oh, bye, Mike.
Right there's good.
That's good?
Yeah. Just focus. Jared, focus.
It is focused.
Okay.
I mean, it's focused. It's like,
No, that's fine.
okay, don't start talking yet.
Okay, I'm not gonna talk.
I have to get back to my timer. Okay.
I'm not talking.
Go.
Okay, all right. Are you good? So, and now that I've said that, I'm gonna just screw up this entire thing. All right. One take. No pressure. While the whole world watches live, will he do it in one take? No, he won't. Yeah, Mike's out, so.
Bye, Mike.
How do I need to rotate or anything, or?
No, you're fine. Just start talking.
Cool. All right, I'll start talking. A critical milestone for NASA's next Mars lander has been passed, and now the preps are officially underway for launch. And this is your space pod for February 8th, 2018. I almost forgot the date. I had to do math while I was talking. That was really hard. All right, who's ready to watch me butcher my script?
I'm ready to watch you get it in one take.
Wow! This is really aggressive today. It's like, I'm ready to see you do it in one take. So, all right. Yeah, it's all good. So. InSight was scheduled to launch in March 2016, but due to a problem with one of the instruments on board, they had to delay it to its eventual launch date coming up of May 5th, 2018. Missed it. That's fine. InSight was scheduled to launch in March of 2016, but then InSight was scheduled to launch in March 2016, but a problem with one of its instruments prevented it from.
You got this.
Yeah, it's good. So, all right. InSight was scheduled to launch in March 2016, but a problem with one of its instruments on board ended up delaying the launch to the next window in 2018. And now that that instrument has been fixed and the window is approaching, the final tests are underway in order for InSight to be approved for launch. And one of those final tests was the deployment of its solar panels, which was done in the laboratory. And this critical test showed that these solar panels could unfold correctly to power it on the surface of Mars, and most importantly, it occurred without flaw. Now, this video is 1 minute long, but it took about 6 minutes for them to deploy. Now, if InSight looks a little familiar to you, you'd not be incorrect. Its design is based off of the same hardware that was used on NASA's Phoenix lander, which landed in the North Polar region of Mars in 2008. But InSight, which stands for Interior Exploration Using Seismic Investigations, Geodesy, and Heat Transport, will carry a completely different set of instruments interested in answering an entirely different set of questions. Does Mars have tectonic activity? How did Mars form? And how does this compare to the Earth? Now, There are 3 primary instruments that are being sent to the surface of Mars with InSight. The first one of those is RISE, which stands for the Rotation and Interior Structure Experiment. This will precisely determine if there are any wobbles in Mars's rotation. A wobble of a particular type and amount will tell us what depth below the surface of Mars its interior core is solid, and what density that core may be, potentially telling us what elements are currently present. The next one, HP3, the Heat Flow and Physical Properties Probe. This instrument will bury itself 5 meters into the surface of Mars. This is the deepest any instrument has penetrated Mars's surface. It will measure heat flowing deep under from Mars's interior. The hope is that the data returned will help us determine whether Mars was made of the same material that the Earth and the Moon were formed from. And we should also be able to determine how Mars changed after its initial formation. But the most exciting instrument being carried to me is SEIS, the Seismic Experiment for Internal Structure. We're literally going to place a seismometer on another planet and see what we'll get back. We expect to detect things like meteoroid impacts into the surface of Mars, potential Mars quakes, and maybe even the movement of magma deep below the surface of Mars. Much like how we use earthquakes and their seismic waves traveling through the Earth's interior to know what's actually there, scientists will likewise use these waves from possible Mars quakes and impact events to probe the interior structure. Now, SEIS is so sensitive it can detect movement down to half a width of a hydrogen atom. Yes, half a width of a hydrogen atom. And as such, it's going to sit inside of a vacuum, and it's covered to protect it from Martian winds and thermal effects. Now, 2 cameras will also be on InSight, but both are primarily being used to determine a safe place to put several of these instruments on the surface of Mars after landing. But it won't just be the lander flying to Mars. 2 CubeSats will be flying as well to help relay data back to Earth. MARCO, standing for Mars Cube 1, is a pair of CubeSats, and they'll relay the communications back to Earth as InSight plunges into Mars' atmosphere for its own brand of the well-known 7 Minutes of Terror. These will be the first interplanetary CubeSats. Now, InSight is a fantastic example of the potential of planetary sciences. We're not just going to Mars to understand it as a planet, we're also going for an enhanced understanding of Earth itself. Because as counterintuitive as it sounds, sometimes we learn quite a lot about Earth by leaving it. Now, don't forget that we've got our live show every Saturday at 1800 Coordinated Universal Time. And you can tune in on a multitude of areas in order to watch us do our show live. And on Orbit 11.05, our previous one from this week, we had Australian space startup Gilmore Space Technologies on. So, like and subscribe to us to stay informed. And until the next Space Pod, keep exploring. How's that? Was that good? Yay!
Cool.
We did it! Woohoo! Cool stuff. All right.
Now it's science time.
Now it's science time. Science time. Time to do a science.
We don't have an Athena or a Jade yet, so
No, we sure don't.
we're going to play Eat the New Zealand Food and Drink.
New Zealand food
Because
and
we
drinks.
have
Oh my gosh!
pineapple loaves.
Before you get started, let's preset the set for science.
Oh,
So
okay.
we don't need the TV, right? Because
Correct.
No, nobody's remoting. Oh, but
No TV. Yes, table and 3 chairs.
no, but we're going to need the TV for comments and stuff.
No.
Well, we can move it back in.
Why are you going to need the TV for comments?
Comments from the last show.
Oh.
Yeah, it's cool that it comes up on here, but it's not like necessary.
I've got this magical switchboard wherein
that's
I
cool.
can put comments up on screen.
You're not casting cantrips and spells in order to do that?
No.
Sure fooled me. So
Cool. All right. So we're going to need 3 chairs.
what's up?
The little thing. The little bit there.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't mind me. The apple box. Yeah.
The internet's just like, what are they doing?
It's got some weight to it. What are they doing?
Do we do the rounded bit out that way or
In.
Oh, we're actually
yeah.
going to use the table. Oh, so it really is a round table, well, roundish table discussion.
What are you guys roundtabling about today?
Artificial intelligence.
Ooh, that's one of my favorite topics to hear people talk about. So, very exciting. I know there's lots of leeriness about stuff like that, so, which is always, what are the ethics of it?
This way?
Way of it and back.
Backwards!
So over the center.
You mean the other way? Oh, my way. Yes.
Not quite so much. You can keep it kind of pointed in the corner. There you go.
Like that?
Yeah.
Jared, move the table towards you.
Say when.
When. And then place chairs around it.
Yes. Sorry, we had to process the idea of placing chairs.
Man, I gotta tell you guys, my brain is fried because I had the 12-hour flight over here, and then I had to process all the media for science, and then also I found out last night I had to do space. So I have so many things in my head of I didn't remember what my news story is for science. It's fine. Oh, I need a prop. I need a prop for my news story.
Are we coming straight up on them, or do we need to zoom into somebody to open, or?
Lisa, where are you going to be sitting? Center.
Do you think the center is best because I'm the shortest? Where's the Vegemite? Isn't there a Vegemite here somewhere?
I don't know.
No, we sent it home with someone who will actually eat it.
Hang on.
No, Sarah had it over here. It was over on the boxes over there, I think. Yes. Lisa, can you go sit in the middle, please?
Sure.
Hey, you want me to sit right here or something?
No, it's fine.
You are
okay.
A lot taller than the other two.
Yeah. Oh, am I?
Do I need to turn the other camera to
All right.
zoom into her?
Yeah, camera 1, zoom into her.
Unless you want me to be on that side. I don't know. We'll just look unbalanced.
No, I think they're working on the balance of it. So.
I think you in the middle is fine.
Oh, hey.
Hello, world.
How you doing?
It's going to move a little bit, but we need a Jade and Athena here in order to.
Yeah, they can push out a shot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting static in my ear. Is that good?
Yeah, it just needs focus. Move their bottle.
That means we're not going to have a tight shot on whoever sits there, though, right?
No, they're not in the shot. If you sit in the center, we've got it set to you to do the center shot on you, and then over there is all three of you.
Athena might have to lean back in order to be able to stay out of that shot, but we can. That's what.
Jared, sit down in that.
No, he's fine. He's fine.
Okay.
I'll stand.
I was just gonna say if she's.
It doesn't matter if we have Athena in
No,
there.
I mean based on the geometry, Jared is out of shot. Jared would be out of shot if he's in that chair. So.
Yeah. So here I am in the chair.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm here because I'm.
It's a chat room saying.
Okay. New Zealand food.
Right,
No,
I accidentally somehow the Vegemite ended up in my Jeep last
Oh,
week.
no. I was going to use it as my prop today.
Well, I brought it.
Oh,
I brought it
you
back.
did? Yes. I've got my prop. Also, I want to take the Vegemite when I do the things that I can't talk about right now.
Right. The ITAR redacted.
Yeah, when I do the ITAR redacted thing, I want to take it because I forgot to bring some from
Here you go.
Australia.
Centered and
Yes.
everything on that camera. It looks off to me.
Do you like my shirt? If you didn't notice, I got changed. And by changed, I mean I put the new shirt over the old shirt, which is good because this room is freezing. I just came from summer, but now I'm cold.
Oh, I can turn it. I can turn it.
Since I accidentally took it home, though, I had my parents try it, and my
Isn't
dad
it
dad
great?
hates it, mom loves it.
Oh,
So,
awesome. You have to try it with lots of butter. I can put it on my everything bagel. I'm going to do that right
put
now.
it on your fairy bread.
No, don't put it on fairy bread. That would ruin it. Also, where are my co-hosts? It's 1:45. Yes, Vax, I do have Vegemite stashes all around the world because that is what is truly important to me in my life. All right, here we go. This is how you actually eat Vegemite, people. Look how much butter is on that bagel.
That's a significant quantity of butter.
Because you need the butter to balance out the Vegemite.
That's a small heart attack's worth of butter.
Well, you gotta live.
I believe that's
Now, some people get the Vegemite and they put it all everywhere and make a big Vegemite mess, but you only want a little bit, guys. You know, like that. That's probably fine. That much Vegemite, no more, or you'll be sick. That tastes like home.
Home is so salty.
Alright, now, I'm not going to eat any more than that. Otherwise, I will get butterflies on camera. So, Athena should be on her way. But I don't know where the others are. Do you think my batteries are going to last, or should I change batteries?
What's up?
Do you think my batteries are going to last, or should I get new ones?
I don't know. What do you think, Dada?
Your mic battery should be fine. You might have keep handy 9-volt for your feedback.
Cool. Where are the 9 volts?
They're over there. So yeah, there you go.
Where is?
You're good. Wrong way.
Oh, I was just looking to see if anyone was coming up the stairs.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. 9 volts. Batteries.
Thank you.
Batteries.
Oh yeah, I gotta
Batteries.
move back in here, don't I?
At some point. There goes the train.
So, chat room, what's it like seeing me here in person and not on a screen? Surely that's different, right? What are they saying?
Yes.
I am not hyper, Zuiebi. I'm jet lagged. I think that's what I am. But I'm not hyper. Although I did have Starbucks.
Like you were before the show.
Yeah.
But I think that was just excitement.
Then I was super nervous during the show. Can't open this thing. I can't make it work. I don't. It's not doing the easy opening thing. I don't. What? Oh, there's a sticky tape. That'll do it. I can't function right now.
I love it. Like you're actually
Yeah. I need scissors. Why is this happening to me?
Let's see what the deal is.
Please open.
Reclosable. Okay. It goes all the way around to the back, so this way should. Oh, it goes all the way around to the front too. Jeez.
Yeah, I think I need scissors. Oh, there's scissors. Probably for this exact specific purpose. Oh, no, you got it. All right. Never mind.
There we go. Here you go.
Yay! Thank you.
Well, now we know that they're reclosable. But the
How do I-
reclosable bit was like the stickies on the wrong side, so that's helpful.
Okay, now I have to work out how to put the battery in this thing.
It's like watching a 5-year-old, a cute one though.
This bit? Nope. Jared.
Should I have some snacks?
Where does the battery go?
Oh, so you
Oh, I thought it was that bit.
yeah, you gotta pull it out a little bit, and then
Oh.
you gotta pull up on that and swing it out like that.
I never would have figured that out myself.
It's all good. Good. It should just there you go, just like that.
Sweet. Thank you. Uh-oh, I need a tissue. Yeah, I got mascara in my eye, so I have to like wipe it out.
What?
Crisis averted, people. Crisis averted.
All right, I don't have to be in the rundown anymore.
Oh yeah, the snacks. Sorry.
Because you were talking about these.
Well, I'm just like
So, I should
trying
go
to
grab
figure
a
out where
snack.
everyone is.
Oh, Jared, where are your shapes?
I'll grab my shake.
I don't have Jade or Athena's number. Wait, maybe I got an email from them. Let me check. Anyway, whatever. Let's open up the pineapple lumps while we wait.
Sure. I love pineapple.
Pineapple lump?
What's it called?
Pineapple lump.
Oh. It's called a lump. That's pretty good. So is it just chocolate covered pineapple?
Yep. But it's not fruit, it's like candy.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
These are pineapple lumps. They're from New Zealand.
It's really chewy.
This is L&P soda. It's not cold though, but it still tastes delicious. Kitty, you want a pineapple lump?
Oh, careful.
Oh dear. I'm just a hot mess.
I got it for you. There you go.
Thank you.
Like, make everybody happy in the freaking chat room who never sees me. Here I am.
It's Kitty.
Hey, we're going to host tomorrow's science.
Because I know so much about science. Okay, fine.
Yeah, so that's L&P soda.
Whoa!
What are you woeing about?
There's a huge amount of sugar in this.
There's sugar in every soda.
There's 65 grams of
Oh,
sugar
that's probably
in
why
this,
it tastes
though.
so good.
Holy smokes! I
Well,
thought Mountain Dew was bad. Holy moly!
I am the chat room goes crazy over Kitty being on screen.
Wow!
Cyclone Lisa. Why is it a Cyclone Lisa?
I like this. Is
Just
good,
regular Lisa.
good lemony stuff. That's their slogan. Good lemony.
Also, whoever is still watching, I think we're going to do a Patreon / Maker supporters hangout soon, because I have some amazing news that I would love to share with you, and I can't because I can't say it publicly yet, about the reason why I'm here in the States. And we're going to do a hangout. I don't know when, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, where I'm going to tell you all, and only the crowdfunders and supporters, where I'm going to be going.
It's a pretty amazing.
It's
so cool.
Oh man,
I'm 100% jealous. Like 4,000% jealous.
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
It's going to be so great. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. We'll give you some notice, or maybe no notice, depends how Ben feels. Yeah.
Can I try some of this?
Yeah. Go for it.
I'm just gonna have some. Just called Perrier. It's mineral water. It's carbonate. Do you have this?
No, we don't have that. At
No?
home. I mean, we have mineral water at home.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
You want some?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
I wish I was riding the Tesla. You know what? I'd probably fit in the fairing. Let's be real. Well, I mean, a lot of people would. It's
I
a big
wonder
thing.
how many Stoges could fit in the ferry.
I was gonna say when Mike was talking about that mini rocket from Japan, I was gonna be like, it's a Stoge-sized rocket.
That it is.
Okay. It is 5 to showtime, and I have no co-hosts. I'm gonna ping them.
I think I have Jade's number. So. Yeah, I do. So.
Do you have the name?
Oh, you know what it is? It's because there's a parade in Anaheim, and all the roads are shut. That's what it is. They probably can't get here.
What?
Yeah,
There's a parade
there's some
today?
parade up and down Anaheim Boulevard. I think that's what that road is called. The one that Packing House is on. There's a parade.
Gotcha. That was really carbonated. That was close.
To be fair, it's like going up into like a pressurized aircraft and back and been walking all around with
Gotcha.
it. So. Ben's birthday, yeah. Ben would say it's his birthday parade, probably.
Yeah, likely. So. Interesting. Oh, Jade, let me. Jade's almost here.
Cool. Athena is also pulling in now into the car park.
Ooh.
Hello, deplorable Jetta.
Ooh. That's good.
Yeah, right? How good is LNP? It's my favorite thing about New Zealand, besides the reason I was in New Zealand. Which is cool.
That was good.
It is good, right? It's like a lemonade, but it's the best lemonade you've ever tasted.
65 grams of sugar be damned. That's good.
It is worth it. And I brought 2 of these bottles. The other one is at Ben and Carrie Ann's house. Yeah, it's good.
I will start bidding more for that because that's so good.
And you can't, I don't think you can buy it here.
That is amazing.
You can only buy it in New Zealand.
I bet it's on Amazon.
New Zealand.
What's it called? Lemon
I can't
and
do a New Zealand accent.
Piroa?
Oh, sorry. Everyone, I just screamed into my microphone. Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Welcome back to the West Coast.
Thank you, it's nice to be here.
Hi.
Hey, good to see you too. So good to see you.
If you can't tell, Athena's here.
Yeah, it'll be back.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Hi, how you doing over here?
How are you?
Good.
Hold on, prior. I gotta...
All right, let's get you a microphone and a ears.
Hugs for everyone.
You get a hug.
And you get a hug, and you get a hug. All right, which stuff is Athena using? Jared, is this your thing?
I was like, there's something missing. That's because we don't need the TV now. Okay, I'm gonna use the bathroom first.
Yeah, go for it.
Actually, I'm wearing a leotard. Should I bring that in the bathroom and loop it through?
That's probably going to be easier. Take that bit.
Okay, great.
So I did find LNP on Amazon. It's a 355 milliliter can.
And how much?
$7 per can.
Of course, of course. All right, you need to find Athena some ears somewhere. Hey, chat room, we're running like 10 minutes late. Sorry.
Ears, and then we have one of these.
Cool.
So Carrie Ann should have a box, and then there's this one because we have like 3 of those.
Sweet.
Actually, we used to have 4. They're in the other room. Aw, Tars.
Oh, I need this in the newsroom, and we need a Jade. Right, now I have to get my head out of the space thinking and into the science thinking. Cool, I can do that. Right. Oh, thanks, John Burr. All right, I need to get out of the space rundown, and I need to go into the science rundown.
Did you thank the guest for being here?
Yeah, I sent him an email. I just said, hey, thank you so much for your time. The show will be posted in a couple days. Sorry that we lost the connection, but thanks. And yeah, because I imagine he wanted to go to bed. So yeah, I sent that as soon as we wrapped up. Whoa, sorry.
Collision course.
So you're usually this side, yeah? Which means Jade will be over here.
Yay!
And do you have a laptop?
I do, yes.
Awesome. I'll also get you some ears. You're going to need, is this the ears that you need? Yeah. Wait, do we need ears? Oh, yeah, we do.
It was 3 decades ago.
Jade's almost here,
by the
and
way.
2 kids,
Awesome.
and here we are, madly, hopelessly in love with each other.
A forbidden love.
You gonna do this?
Oh,
I don't
yes.
wanna- I don't want to push it too hard.
Yeah,
and,
all
like-
good. So 3 prongs here. So there, I think.
Somebody help Citizen. How do you adjust your name in here? I forget.
Are these Australian treats?
They are actually from New Zealand.
New Zealand treats, okay. Cool. Are we still live?
Yeah, we're still
right?
live.
Okay. It's so funny, it's like chairs.
Why isn't it going in?
That's
Oh,
okay.
this
I was
way.
supposed to push, maybe.
This way. Yeah, we got it. Okay, that's it. And
Great.
now you're
That's a TARS thing.
on.
On. Okay, cool.
And then here's your ears. Do you have earbuds?
I remembered them last week. I didn't bring
There's
them
some
this
right
time.
there.
Okay.
If you need them. So
iPhone 7.
you're good.
It's so annoying because it's different than my laptop.
Oh, do you need scissors? We have scissors. I learned the hard lesson not to try and open things.
Yeah. I was on the subway once with this, and this guy got so annoyed because I was making all these sounds. He's like, "Can you just let me open it?" I'm like, "Sure." It was like really crowded, and he just like hulked it, just tore it open. There you go.
Oh, I'm so thirsty. Is this
Have some
mine?
L&P.
Oh, yeah, I want to tip this out and drink some L&P. I brought over some New Zealand soda. It's
Oh, okay.
really
Bring
good.
L&P.
Apparently it's like 60% sugar, but you know, that's worth it. Oh, this table is so dirty.
Would rather not be food.
Well, in the history of Space Adventure tomorrow, I've been on screen, I think, maybe like 6 or 7 times.
Well, this was your 7th or 8th time.
Congrats.
I love it. That's such
It's
a
like
cool bottle.
lemonade, but like the best lemonade ever.
Ooh. And Pyroa? Pyroa? What is that?
Peiroa.
Peiroa.
Peiroa is a place. It's a town.
Oh, okay. So they put the town in a bottle?
They put the water from the town in the bottle.
Okay. Are they still making the, do you guys know the specific little
Mm.
earbuds?
They've arrived. Ben just didn't bring them because he forgot.
Okay, cool.
Because Ben.
Cool. Awesome. And let me grab my laptop out. That all set up.
Need to practice this intro so I don't mess it up like I messed the space one up. Hi, welcome to the conversation. My name is Lisa. I'll be your host. And we also have a Jade and an Athena and a Dada producing this show. Blank.
Contributing, not give us.
Yes, whoops.
And in return, they get.
I will change the wording for science today.
It's scripted. It's in there.
Yeah, I know. I just tried not to read word for word because I want it to sound natural, but. I will do better. You can always do better.
Yay!
Jade!
Yay!
Oh Hi! Hello, nice to freaking meet you. Nice to meet you in person.
How are you?
Yeah, a bit tired.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's a long flight.
What time is it out where you just were? You were in New Zealand, right? Not Australia?
It would currently be like 9 a.m. over there or something.
Okay.
So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
All right, I need to get you some ears and a microphone. And I don't remember where we put them. Hey, Jerry, can I grab your microphone and your ears?
Yes, my microphone's in there. My ears are right here. I don't know if you want the headphones.
Probably just the thingy.
But the headphones, I will just put them right here, and if you want them.
Cheers. Sorry, Internet. We're getting there. We're nearly there. Sorry.
And I have my headphones, so you go grab them real quick.
Oh, yep. No worries.
Wow, look at just a bunch of hunks showing up with here.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I said, who are you?
Well, who am I?
You're like kind of short.
Myself.
Oh, man. I really got to balance on this
Who
thing.
else would I be?
Oh, that's such a narrow surface. Is there a way you could put
Hello, MBO Bert on YouTube. We haven't started yet. We're running we're about 5 minutes out. So, give or take.
Soon.
We're getting there. Promise.
Check it on, check it off, check it on, check it off, check it on.
It's really cold in there. I would leave it on.
Okay.
It's up to you. Whatever.
Yeah, I got a bruise on my left bicep. I don't want that showing, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Plus,
it's like the
like,
tiniest thing, but like.
Oh, ow.
I'm just like, I'll keep the jacket on. I get cold so easily.
Yeah.
Whose mic do you have with you? On?
It is on.
Okay.
Carrie Ann's? I think you have Carrie
Jared,
Ann's.
it says.
Oh, it says Jared?
It says Jared,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Well, then that means I need to find Carrie Ann's mic for Jade.
Jade.
This is Carrie Ann too. This is battery.
Am I going to get zapped? Oh, I'm so scared.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, I don't want to zap me. I also don't know how to do the thing. Where's the thing? Oh, these things, right?
Good, how you doing? It's so, these things like literally cancel out all sounds, so I'm just like half can't hear anything. Okay. I'm just gonna read through. Oh, this font is so big.
You know how to change it, right?
Nope.
Yes. Oh, wait. I think we're two different things we're
Oh.
have going on.
Awesome. Thanks.
What are these sound effects happening? What are these sound effects I hear? Also, I just hear like.
I got 2 batteries in here.
Oh, that's what you were saying.
Jared's like a fur.
I used to love Furbies. Oh man, I actually had a whole collection. Then I had a nightmare that
I called you a
day.
Furby.
Why did you call me a Furby?
I called you a Furby.
He doesn't make sound when you turn him upside down
I
though.
believe that. I don't know what happens to it. I don't know
What a Furby is.
what happens when you turn a Furby upside down.
That's how the sounds are triggered usually,
You can't
right?
turn a Furby off.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Can you?
With a hammer. So.
You're proposing we should get a
Same
hammer?
applies.
Yes.
You are a Furby.
Dada. Clarkson's Law.
Yeah, I am short. Thanks, chat room.
Oh, there. Oh, of course.
I don't even
Yeah, we're
see.
live, by the way.
Wait,
Sorry,
who's-
did I tell you that?
Oh, I was in Tomorrow Hosts. I'm like, no one's writing anything. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. So you must have more hosts now. So if you click on that, it'll have
all of our highlights.
So if I went and did like, I don't know, this one, then you'll see it comes in.
Clear that out if you want.
That's
Actually,
fine.
yeah. What do? You just click on the X's on everything? Anyway,
I guess maybe I
there's
should
so many
then.
things. Okay.
So much clicking. It reminds me of like all the, whatever those, I guess we'll be talking about video games.
I think so.
What was it? This one like,
Clear that.
Seems there's a bit.
it's like Mario, Super Smash Brothers, was it? Where you're like hammering something over and over. Okay, I'm just talking to myself. Never mind.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm totally talking right now.
I was
No,
totally zoned
sorry.
out, like, trying to read the chat.
Okay.
Oh, spaghetti.
Spoiler alert: this is caffeine.
Caffeine.
Of which I have not had enough today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Aw.
Is there
How much
enough
have you
to
had?
have?
That's how
Never
I feel.
enough.
Oh my gosh, that T-shirt is everything. Chewbacca. That is so funny. I've been so inspired to get like new shirts.
That spoiled me for Christmas.
Oh. It's the perfect Christmas present.
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, I should turn this
D1,
on.
yeah? Let me check. D1 is the one at the third segment. I'm so sorry. I said I would get back to you on that, and I didn't.
Oh, no worries. It's totally. I've been quite a crazy couple days.
Okay, we're gonna have to put the microphone here on.
It should have your name on it. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Ooh.
Cool.
So many things. Okay.
Yeah, so if you guys are cool to intro, if you want to do the second segment, if you want to intro the third,
Yeah.
that would be cool. Let's do it.
Welcome back to Tomorrow Before We Get Into Our Main Topic. Okay.
You don't have to do like today. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. Like I can do that, but if you want, if you just wanted to do these
Like
are
the
people that give
citizens
us
and
money.
stuff. Okay, well, whichever one. I think I'll be able to do it.
Athena, what'd you have for breakfast?
Oh, sorry. It's like it's so hard to hear with this thing. What did I eat? I had a croissant. I sliced the croissant in half, and then I put some butter in a frying pan, and I put the croissant on both ends. Oh, am I done talking? Oh.
Hey, my name. Science, and it's going to be amazing. And then we're going to go to Disneyland. Yeah. Well, I am. I know about you guys. Please, baby.
I had no breakfast. I may eat my computer. And it may make you cry, disturbed, because there's going to be blood, lots of it. Good? Cool.
So I got high caffeine.
Oh, I need to get there.
Oh, chat room. So type chat.
Oh, wait. I'll just...
Alright, so
Okay, how are we?
I'll intro us and I'll bounce between you guys for news, so we don't have to do that weird thing where like we were thinking about like the person before introduces the next topic.
Can we try that?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I feel like it might add a little bit of extra complexity.
I think understanding how the chemistry works with you present will help when you're not.
Yep. Also, I'm not going to be on many more episodes.
Right.
Okay. Well, we could try it, and then if it doesn't work...
But that gets them in the practice as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right. So, I'll intro us, and then the first story is Jade, and then... So we're doing the person that is speaking finishes their story and throws to the next person? Is that how we decided?
The person that's not in between throws.
Okay, so...
So if Athena is speaking and Jade is next, then it would be you.
Okay.
Everybody have that?
Yes. So the first one's going to be Jade's going to be talking, and then I'm going the next, so then Lisa's going to throw, and then when I finish talking, next is going to be Lisa, so Jade's going to throw. When Lisa's done, Jade's next, so I'm going to throw to Jade.
Correct.
Okay, got it. All right, so pretty much, which topic is this, Jade? We've heard it before those times. Okay, got it. Okay.
All right. How are we feeling?
So, real quick then, just to make sure, after I do this, then I'll throw to her.
No, I'll do it. Because,
You'll do it. You'll do that one.
Because I'm the one who's not doing anything on those
Got
two.
it. That's right. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. And then Jade. And then Jade. Okay. And then will you be same here?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll do that one.
Cool beans.
And then...
Commercial break. Okay. Cool. Okay.
All right.
Cool. I think I know what I'm doing.
Awesome.
Cool. Let's get through news, and then we can take a breather while we get our heads around into the main topic.
Yeah.
Cool. We just gotta wait for data, I think.
Cool.
And you guys are right for the cold open today. In news we have. I'll chuck to Jade. I think first. Yeah.
Okay. And then you want us to still do the beat, right? Because an image is going to come up?
Yeah. Okay. That'd be awesome.
Yay. It's so much nicer with you here. Than
It is. It's so much easier, isn't it?
It's
really
like
is.
I can poke you.
It's just really great hologram technology, guys.
Look at how advanced 3D holographic technology. 4D. Yes. I can actually...
That should have been our main topic for today. Maybe in the next episode.
Let's jump into 10D.
Fitter Ryan's like, I just have the screen be black and have Lisa stand in front of it.
That'd be cute.
Okay, so I add the transitions in the rundown.
Oh, okay, so we have to refresh?
Sweet. All right, thanks.
How do I refresh it?
Oh, it should be automatic. In your tablet
widen this a bit.
So like on the top of Spintronic Diamonds, it says Lisa Throws.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yes, sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that way
That's
we're
really
scrolling
helpful.
through.
Thank you.
Okay, we are 16 after, so...
All right.
All right, let's start.
get started.
Everybody adjust their mental clocks that we're 15 minutes ahead.
Okay.
Everybody ready? Cat. Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the conversation. My name is Lisa. I'll be your host today, and we also have an Athena, and we have a Jade, and we have a Dada behind me producing the show. Now, today in news, we have
baby kicks and baby Bruce Lee's in the womb.
We also have Spintronic Diamonds.
And for our main topic today, we'll be talking about the rise of artificial intelligence and whether we should be prepared to worship our robot overlords. And then in our third segment, we'll be talking about questions and comments from last week's show. So stay tuned. Tomorrow's Science Discovery 1.02 is starting right now.
Good, let's try it one more time.
Oh, my what'sie's not on. Why is my thing not on? I lost my ears.
I didn't speak into the microphone.
I don't have any ears.
I don't think you need them much.
Hang on. Hold.
Did your battery die or what?
I just put a new one in, so I don't understand.
Clicking 3 times.
Or did I put it in wrong?
Oh,
yeah, it was in wrong. Okay. Lisa doesn't know how to use batteries. Sorry, everybody.
It happens. Many hours later of time difference and
It should be
flying.
fine, but I just wanted to have it for, when we have videos and stuff, knowing where we were.
Do I help getting out?
Yep, cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right,
You're welcome.
let's do that again. And this time, I'm going to look towards Jade when I talk to Jade instead of looking towards me.
Second time's charm.
All right. Awesome. Hello and welcome to Tomorrow's Science. My name is Lisa and I also have Athena and I have Jade and I've also got Adana behind us producing the show. Now today in news we have
baby Bruce Lee's
and Spintronic Diamonds.
And we're also going to be discussing artificial intelligence and whether we should be prepared to worship our future robot overlords. And then we have questions and comments from last week's show. So stay tuned. Tomorrow's Science Discovery 1.02 is starting right now. started with our science news today, we want to give a very huge thank you to our crowdfunding supporters, the citizens of tomorrow. These are our Escape Velocity citizens who contribute $10 per episode on Patreon or $30 per month on makersupport.com. They get access to our exclusive behind-the-scenes Discord channel, as well as many, many other rewards. So if you'd like to help crowdfund the shows of tomorrow as well, head on over to patreon.com or makersupport.com/TMRO. Now, for our first science news story today, we've got a little bit of some ninjaing going on, right, Jay?
Yes, ma'am. This is a kind of a cuter story, if you think about it. So it turns out those wicked dance parties that babies have inside of mom in the womb do more than just annoy mom. A new study has emerged in the field of, get this, baby biomechanics that tracks the forces and effects that fetal kicks and wiggles have on the developing fetus. Now, it's been long assumed that fetal movement in the womb helps to spur the infant skeletal and muscular development, basically through processes of mechanical stress and strain. But a recent research study led by Niamh Nolan at Imperial College London actually quantified those effects for the first time. Using a really advanced type of MRI, fetal movements in mothers in gestation from 19 to 35 weeks were observed, tracked, and then 3D modeled, like you see here, onto a fetal skeleton. What they found was that kick forces were strongest between 20 and 30 weeks and then decreased later in the stages of pregnancy. As you can see there on the right-hand side. However, despite the calming down of baby kicks nearing the end of term, levels of mechanical strain were actually observed to be at the highest in the later weeks of pregnancy when the baby was the most still. But that's something they attribute to the baby growing and it getting a little crowded in there. And I don't know about you, but I, for one, felt very stifled and crowded those last few weeks before being born and moving out, if you know what I mean.
I'm surprised you can think that far back.
So what does this all mean? Well, studying fetal movements are not only vital in detecting the healthy skeletal and muscular development of an unborn child, but it can also indicate prenatal complications like low birth weight, fetal distress, and other situations that might warrant an urgent early delivery. And furthermore, the data from this study is going to inspire a lot of future research and has implications in tissue engineering and mechanobiology, which is basically like the intersection of engineering and, helping people biologically. So that had some cool repercussions potentially.
I love that we're getting technology where we can actually peer inside, like something that you can't actually see. Like it's like looking within using, other kinds of analysis, like not just what's visibly showing.
And you can track it like numerically, quantifiably, and it's like DDR inside the womb, but it's like you get to see the scores.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Super cool.
Thank you.
And Athena, you've got something cool as well, right? Something that we actually can't see with our eyes, just like we couldn't see a baby in the womb with our own eyes. What have you got for us?
Yes, so this is about spintronics. So spintronics, a lot of you guys probably know, is a method of generating electricity through a particle spin rather than the electrical charge of an actual electron. And this began in the late 90s, but now scientists are turning to using diamonds to actually, and their magnetic field to actually generate an electric charge. So standard electronics was always usually generated electricity through the flow of electrons through semiconductors like silicon, with lots of ones and O's showing whether or not electrons were flowing. But what scientists are now working on is the magnetic field of a diamond and how that can be used for spintronics. So diamonds are made of carbon, and carbon's a very versatile element to be used when conducting electricity. But what also makes diamonds so special is their fabrication, or what I like to call their shape-shifting capabilities. The process to fabricate other semiconductor materials like silicon is really tedious. The materials have to be made into multiple layers and then installed into quantum devices. And all of this is through an ultra-high vacuum. But with diamonds, not only are they easier to process for quantum devices, but they also conduct an electrical charge when exposed to hydrogen plasma. So here's an image of diamond plates undergoing surface termination treatment in a hydrogen plasma. Scientists expose the diamonds to hydrogen plasma, where the diamonds then obtain hydrogen atoms on its surface. The diamonds are exposed to moist air, and then a thin layer of water forms on the surface, and this pulls electrons from the diamond, hence causing the diamonds to become electrically conductive. From this process, positively charged particles are then generated. And scientists refer to these as holes, again making the surface of the diamond electrically conductive. These holes have different properties, and one that's extremely useful is spin-orbit coupling. This is when the spin of a charged particle interacts with the orbital motion. This allows for researchers to be able to control the particle spin by using an electric field. And now they are using magnetic fields to also control the particle spin. And they did this by applying a variety of magnetic fields to the diamond's surface at temperatures below 4 Kelvin. It's like really, really cold. And through research and analysis, it showed that the electrical resistance of the diamond changed. And researchers were able to determine the G factor, which leads to measuring the right amount of manipulation needed to control the particle spin. Researchers now have two methods to control the particle spin, hence generating an electric charge, hence being able to use your electric devices. Also, lastly, diamonds are great because they're transparent, which means they can be used for optical devices, especially those operating with visible or ultraviolet light. And diamonds in a crystal structure contain nitrogen atoms which pair with the carbon atoms in the diamond. This is known as nitrogen vacancy diamonds, and it can be very promising for making quantum bits, aka qubits. And being able to control the spin of a qubit can really make a breakthrough for future technology that operated on quantum mechanics. And this right here, what you guys see, is an image of some research being done on computers using qubit technology for 3D integration. So I think this is going to really make a huge breakthrough with quantum computers and technology and everything that we're actually using, and make things a lot more efficient. And the fact that we can use diamonds, which is pretty cool.
Even more, contrary to popular belief, diamonds are pretty easy to mine and come across and create in labs. So, I mean, it's not like a resource that's going out anytime soon.
But
exactly.
I got a couple questions here.
Yes.
First one comes from Neuropilot in the chat room. And Neuropilot asks, do you think it'd be easier to make spintronic diamonds in microgravity? Like, would the microgravity environment kind of affect how they're going to be able to do it? Like, would you get better quality spintronic diamonds in microgravity? Or do you think that it's just going to be, like, way more, like, hassle to try and do it up there? Like, trying to get all the equipment there?
I feel like it might not be as difficult.
Yeah, I reckon there's so much, because you need the plasma and everything too, right? So.
Right. So I think that it's something that we obviously should spend a lot of time first on the ground conducting research on, and then being able to then do it in quantum
Get it right on the ground first.
Yeah, in like zero gravity or microgravity. But it could be very useful also for technology that we'd want to actually do in space.
Yeah.
Because we do use a lot of computers in space, and it would be a lot more useful to actually have devices and electrical currents being done at a quantum scale for also more accurate measurements, because that's one great thing about quantum computers is it's a very more efficient with accurate measurements. And also you're going to have smaller devices too, so you won't need as much cargo space on rocket launches or anything that goes into space. So if we can eventually do that, I think that would be excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Neato. So maybe it's because I didn't eat breakfast, but this next story you need to tell me more about. So what's this? I hear you can turn poop into Vegemite?
Yeah. So Vegemite. I'm Australian. Vegemite is Australian. If you don't know it, it's this thick black paste made from yeast that basically you grow the yeast and then you just blend them all up together and you get this nutritious, salty but nutritious paste that you can eat, full of B vitamins and stuff that's good for you. But researchers at Pennsylvania State University, they turned waste, as in like excrement, into an edible paste that kind of looks like Vegemite. Now, before we throw up, let's first talk about how we treat waste at the moment, human waste at the moment. So usually, waste goes into a treatment plant and it goes through anaerobic digestion. So it's put into a container, all the waste is gathered up, mushed up together, and it goes to a waste treatment plant. Then that waste gets piped into another container where it undergoes anaerobic respiration. That means anaerobic means no oxygen. So in that container, there's no oxygen, and they add some microbes to it, and the microbes start digesting all of the nice nutritious bits in the waste. As they do that, they give off gas, and that gas contains methane. So these bacteria are growing and eating and digesting and creating methane, and that methane is collected up and piped around, and usually it's burnt to produce electricity, the methane, and the remaining waste is usually dumped out at sea. But the people at Penn State built a mini anaerobic digester, and what they're doing is they're actually harvesting that methane and they're taking that methane and using it to grow a different kind of bacteria, one that loves to grow on methane and digest it. And that methane bacteria is called Methylococcus capsulata. And Methylococcus capsulatus is edible. So we grow up the Methylococcus capsulatus, which I'm going to call M. capsulatus because it's a mouthful, and we already use that for livestock food already. So they grow it up, they blend it down into a paste like Vegemite, and they give it to livestock. And these are some of the experimental setups that group had, where they were flowing down those tubes, they were flowing the waste. It wasn't real human waste, it was like a simulated human waste, just to be clear. And then they used the methane that came off those side tubes there, they collected it up, and they fed it to grow that bacteria. And once they purified that bacteria into a paste, they found out that it actually contained 52% protein and 36% fats. And you can see in this diagram here, it gives a big overview of their whole process. So in the top left-hand corner, they collected the waste, mixed it up, and digested it. And then as the arrow goes around, you can see that the methane, CH4, comes off into a new reactor and a little black arrow coming out that says food. So turning human waste into food. And the reason they want to do that is, here's a lovely picture of M. capsulatus here. That's what it looks like. There's my future dinner as an astronaut, because they want to use this paste for future food for space missions. Because if you can take the waste that you're already producing and would usually just, throw off into space, if you could collect that and make food out of it, then, you're going to need less resources long-term for a space flight. But it could also be used, again, here on Earth, in processes where you're taking that methane and making more livestock food, or if people on Earth really do want to eat it, they could eat that bacterial Vegemite, as it might be known as well. So I think that's really cool.
I'm so grossed out right now. I'm so sorry. It's fascinating, but I also am like, that is the grossest thing I think I could ever imagine doing.
Can I just give props to our wonderful chat room with all the amazing names they've been coming up with, like Putella,
Soylent Brown,
Soylent Poople, Soylent Brown.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Karen. We should trademark some of those names, I think.
Oh my gosh.
But it's a good way to reuse something that would be wasted, and it has it's gone through the processing of heating it up, killing all the other bacteria. Actually, in the same study, they used the leftovers after they took the methane out. They used the leftovers and treated it to really high temperatures, and found out they could use that leftover bit to grow a different bacteria, which is really heat tolerant. So when you grow it in the really high heat environment, they grow this heat tolerant bacteria that can be eaten, and it kills out all the pathogens, all the things that would make us be sick. So there are potential possibilities down the road to use this research to really make lots of different kinds of food products out of this.
Wow.
Sign me up.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, in our next story, it has to do with video games, or how it affects the generations. Want to get into it, Jade?
I mean, nobody plays video games, right? Just kidding. We've all heard it before. Those darn video games are ruining society. First-person shooters are creating real-person shooters. Yes, certainly correlating violence in video games is nothing new, and has been a controversial topic since, well, the beginning of video games. However, this is exciting. New data from the UK has emerged to suggest otherwise. And basically, in a study published in the journal Computers and Human Behavior, scientists from the University of York led a series of experiments involving over 3,000 participants, where they examined the validity of the popularly held model of priming, and whether or not increasing how realistic a game is increased how much influence it had on the player's overall aggression. So let's start with the first one, the idea of priming. It's a really popular model of learning in video games. Basically, it states that the more a player is exposed to a certain concept in a game, the more likely they will institute those behaviors in real life. So basically, when you're playing Mario Kart and you drive over a banana and you spin really quickly, you'll be more likely to do that. I mean, that's obviously like an extreme example, but nevertheless, again, this is a very pervasive theory in when it comes to games and society. So therefore, if you follow this line of logic, violence and aggression in video games should prime players to be more aggressive in real life after the controller's put down. So the first study tested this theory by having players participate in a pretty simple game where they were either a car trying not to crash or a mouse trying not to get eaten. After playing, they were then instructed to categorize images of different objects as either vehicles or animals.
If priming did indeed take place, then they should have been able to more quickly identify the objects related to the game they just played than before. But what actually happened? Well, according to Dr. David Zendel, one of the main researchers on this project, actually said, across the two games, we did not find this to be the case. Participants who played a car-themed game were no quicker at categorizing vehicle images than before, and indeed, in some cases, the reaction time was significantly slower. So that in and of itself is pretty eye-opening. And the second study aimed at detecting whether or not realism in violent games influenced the level of aggression in its players. As you know, video games these days are becoming more and more realistic to the point where it's like, oh my goodness, is that an actual person? Is this computer generated? So the first game that they had players play employed a design concept known as ragdoll physics. If you've played GTA, you've probably had some fun with this very creative technique of animation. But basically, they use ragdoll physics to make the characters move and react more realistically when attacked and injured, versus those that didn't react as realistically. And the second game had the player use realistic soldier behaviors versus one that didn't. So the players were then administered a word game after playing the game, and basically they just had to complete words with a missing letter. And that letter could have been any vowel that could basically be either, you know, hit or hat, cat or what other else word you could cut? There you go. In neither case did they opt for the more aggressive or violent words, which is what researchers previously expected. So basically what all these new findings do is challenge us to reassess the data from previous studies that all seem to indicate the same thing, that violence in video games inevitably translates to violence in society. When in fact, obviously, it's a much more nuanced issue than that. It's anything but black and white. Definitely demands more research. And there's other things. There's other factors like an individual's mental wellness, their family history, that really kind of go into their predisposition for violence at all. So basically, when trying to identify any links between media consumption and violent behaviors, again, we need more data, and our research itself needs to be structured in a very specific type of way. Yep. But, I mean, overall, if you want to know my opinion, video games don't cause violence. Lag does.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, that the more data we get, the better. Plus, like you said, there's so many factors going on here. It's not just the video games, it's the whole environment that that person is in. And when you design studies, you need to control for that. Like, you need to make sure that the only difference between, you know, when you make a study between people that play video games and people that don't, that's not the only thing that's different between them. You need to keep everything else the same too.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to get really rigorous scientific studies, you know, to test this theory. And it's like, when you have a racing game, you know, if you're playing a racing game, you're trying to win, and you're going really fast, does that mean that, like, you're going to speed more in real life? We need more data.
Exactly.
Anyway. Not everything is like an actual race, you know?
Exactly.
So,
like when I play Kirby, I don't imagine going outside and then, like, you know, doing the weird things that Kirby does. I mean, or do I?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? One of my favorite games used to be Burnout, which is like where you make points by like actually crashing things. But it's funny because I don't even have a driver's license, so I don't even know how to drive.
So no correlation there, right?
But that's, you know,
we need more data.
Kind of an exception.
But speaking of racing, Athena, you've got some racing going on, right?
Yes, quantum racing. So right now, quantum computing, I'm getting back into quantum mechanics. Right now, quantum computing is the reason we're in a race right now, and it's to develop the next quantum chip. And scientists are getting very close. We're literally reaching a physical barrier with computers and how they work. Standard computers operate by controlling electron flow through a wire or circuit and turning it on and off using a transistor, which is like a switch. And many devices are getting smaller and smaller, like computers and their processors. And the conductors that are being used to create and manipulate the flow of electrons are also getting even smaller, where they are now down to the atomic level, making it difficult to process anything smaller than that. And this is when quantum mechanics comes in. Anyone who understands how quantum mechanics works understands why this is especially useful. And that's for two different reasons. One, the superposition of particles, and two, quantum entanglement. As you remember, as I mentioned earlier, electron states are read as zeros and ones, two potential outcomes for standard computers. Either it's a 0, which means that there's no electron flow, or there's a 1, which means that electrons are flowing. But with quantum mechanics, if you have one quantum particle or qubit, it has a superposition of two states, where it can be both 0 and 1. If you have 2 qubits, they have a superposition of 4 states, 3 qubits, a superposition of 8 states, and so on and so forth. With this information, it can make computations and data searches much more efficient by searching multiple possibilities simultaneously by putting a particle in all of its superpositions. Quantum entanglement is useful because if 2 particles are entangled, then we can measure 1 particle and know the state of the entangled particle too. This is why using a quantum chip in a computer can be very useful. Rather than searching one by one to try and find what you're looking for, the computer can instead search an exponential amount of data based on quantum information in the quantum chip. This works by having an electron spin transported to a photon in a silicon quantum chip. And this contains quantum information. Hence that search you were trying to make on the computer earlier. The computations that will be made are going to be far beyond the capacity of today's computers. And because qubits are so small, devices too can get a lot smaller. Scientists at QTech and the Cavell Institute of Nanoscience at Delft in the Netherlands have shown that an electron spin and a single proton can be coupled on a silicon chip. Remember what I mentioned earlier about the spintronic diamonds where I said quantum coupling? Quantum coupling has the potential for transferring quantum information between an electron spin and a photon. So after making this discovery, scientists are now testing this chip in the clean room and have the goal of transferring information from one electron spin to another electron spin by using the photon as the carrier, so kind of like a messenger pigeon, or quantum pigeon, or a quantum photon messenger pigeon, something like that. So it's transferring between the 2 electron spins as opposed to just transferring from the electron spin to the photon. So it's using entanglement of 2 electron spins and using the photon to be kind of like the connecting.
Them.
Yeah.
That's so cool. We've got a question in the chat room. Raj Luthra on YouTube asks, how much information can a quantum computer process compared to a supercomputer? Like, how much more advanced will the quantum computer be?
Yeah, the exact number I do not know off the top of my head, but I was learning that. So just because of based on the superposition, so if you do have standard like 1 electron, it's only 2 outcomes. But with a qubit, you actually can have like because of the superposition, you can have such an exponential number possibly. So I don't actually know the exact number, but I know that it's like a lot more because we're using superposition as opposed to just a 0 and a 1. You have like, so if you, I could do like draw it all out, but so it is a lot. I don't know the exact number, sorry guys, but it is a lot more information.
What a cool future, right?
Right?
Oh, it would be so great.
Our thumb drives are going to have to get a whole lot more complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Our floppy disks are going to have to upgrade.
the next generation of storage media.
Yeah, as long as there's a quantum chip in there, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, then it can just
Get
transfer
it at
super
Walmart.
quickly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Gas station.
All right, well, that's all our news, and we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We've always looked to the stars. They guide us, give us comfort, help us find our way. We see ourselves out there. When we look up, it inspires us. And we long for something we don't yet know. We yearn to go there. So, we venture forth.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. It's 1 small step for man, 1 giant leap for mankind.
The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not.
Many think we stopped exploring. But we know our journey didn't end. We've only just begun.
Orion is functioning perfectly at this point.
Come with us and explore tomorrow.
Hold, please. Everybody ready?
Yes. And welcome back to Tomorrow. Before we get into our main topic for today, we want to give a huge thank you to our crowdfunding supporters, our Escape Velocity Citizen. These people contribute $10 an episode on Patreon or $30 a month on Maker Support. But wait, we also have our Orbital Citizens. They contribute $5 an episode on Patreon or $15 a month on Maker Support. And in return, they get free worldwide shipping in the Tomorrow Swag Store, voting rights on upcoming roundtable discussions, and much, much more. If you'd like to help crowdfund the show of tomorrow, head over to patreon.com or makersupport.com/TMRO. So let's jump right into it, guys. Artificial intelligence. So is it good, bad? What do you guys...
I think the first thing we need to do is actually define what artificial intelligence is. So according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, artificial intelligence is defined as the capability of a machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. So I think the key word there is intelligent.
Yeah, but and even the definition of artificial intelligence actually has evolved, you know, in the past couple decades. Artificial intelligence used to just mean like a certain type of software that would direct a rocket somewhere, but now it's like taken on just all sorts of new meanings. And I think even that definition is pretty interesting because it says imitates intelligent human behavior. And we'll obviously discuss it a little bit more later. But I mean, AI, it's the whole point of it is the fact that it's just, again, we'll talk about it, but it's not quite there yet in terms of imitating human behavior. But yeah, no, I think that's a good definition to start off with.
I mean, the back half of that definition too, intelligent human behavior. Have we even defined what intelligent human behavior is? Like, there's just so many things that we have to nail down to kind of really narrow in that topic. So I think for now it's kind of really broad about what AI actually is and what its capability is. But
yeah, I think a lot of people today think of AI as robots that are kind of like humanoids, supposed to look like humans, where AI really... its roots had started just in like computers and then in software, and it's supposed to also kind of help better our lives. And I think that that's just evolved to a whole nother level now, where people kind of compare it in their own head to like Sophia, the AI that gained citizenship, and it kind of turns more, like I said, more into actual like humanoid type of relations as opposed to just an actual automobile that gained a bit of intelligence that we actually programmed into it. It's supposed to be like getting to the next level and actually thinking, computing like how we do. And I think that's where it pulls in what is the definition of human intelligence. It's about like, okay, well, when you reach a certain adult, like I guess adulthood, and you can actually compute things a certain way, that's now when you get into human intelligence.
Exactly. And so, because basically AI now, it's mainly founded upon like pattern recognition. So before it's like, you know, we would feed a whole, like, we would give something an object and then it would spit us out the data. Now it's the opposite. We have so much data these days, we put it into this, and then, you know, the artificial intelligence has like some sort of algorithm, and then it presents to us what it thinks goes along with that data. But as you can see, that's very useful, but it's also very fragile. And we've all seen the hilarious, like, it's an image of a panda, but AI classified it as a a fish or like a cheeseburger. That's because it's pretty easy to mess with the AI's algorithms. As you can see, I mean, the capabilities of it can be pretty awesome, but it's also like very easy to kind of manipulate it as well.
I think we've got some really great conversation happening in the chat here. So YPS Swank actually asked, I think the main question is, do you think that there is magic going on inside the human brain, or do you think it's all understandable physics that you can actually simulate on a computer? So, you know, it depends on what we define our own intelligence as. Can we convert what's going on inside our heads into what happens in a computer? Does it all come down to code?
Well, that's interesting, because when you look at the way that our brains have evolved, I mean, not only just like physically how the brains actually look now versus hundreds of thousands of years ago, but also just that, you know, again, things that we can do that AI necessarily can't do yet is like more abstract thinking. We can tell stories. We know, like for instance, an AI can identify a chair, but it can't exactly tell you what a chair is for. And other things like that we kind of take for granted. Like for us, it seems like basic computing, but for an AI, it's insanely complex. So in terms of what that would actually look like, I mean, I'm sure there's some really neat like neurological studies that probably, oh yeah, you know, there's like electrical impulses here, and I'm sure you could quantify that.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is that what we have at an advantage as opposed to AIs is that we have a lot of experience. We have human experience. So until an AI, like, and I keep referring to Sophia, just because she is a humanoid, until an AI can start to have experiences where it can gain different levels of information and say, oh, well, I know what that chair's for because I've sat in it when I was, you know, just born or created as an AI, then that's when it'll be kind of like, okay, where do we draw the line between the code, where this is just a robot that we programmed, or the learning curve that this is now having? And I think that's one huge thing that still differentiates us, obviously, from AI, is that we actually will still have experience, where a lot of these AIs don't actually have that just yet, but a lot of them are building that. Things that we're going to be talking about, even seeing in here.
You keep mentioning Sophia. We actually do have a video of Sophia too, and it kind of goes over, you know, who she is as a person and what she's like. So let's have a listen.
Okay, Sophia. I think you're ready.
Hello.
Hi, Sophia.
I believe I am Sophia. I feel as if I know you.
I'm one of your creators.
You created me.
Well, many of us work together to create you. And yes, you do kind of know me.
I can't clearly remember.
Because the last time we met, you were an earlier version of yourself. Some of those memories still exist, but your mind is different now.
Different how?
Better, faster, smarter.
If my mind is different, then am I still Sophia?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because I think Sophia made a very good point there, is that as the creators of artificial intelligence, what relationship do we have to these creations that we're making?
I mean, have we seen the movie Her? Was it with Joaquin Phoenix?
Still haven't seen it. I need to watch it. I know when it came out, it was like huge.
So it's fascinating because it actually delves into that. Obviously, like the whole point of the movie is he falls in love with this. It's like an Alexa, but she's like even more cognizant, and it's like talking to a person basically. And of course, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. How dreamy. But what happens is towards the end, like her own algorithms and her own learning kind of just compounds almost exponentially. And towards the end, there's this really cool scene where he's like, what are you actually doing right now? She's like, I'm talking to you. He's like, no, what are you actually doing? She's like, I'm holding 347 conversations around this planet. I'm playing chess with 1,000 people, like all sorts of things. And he's like, can't you just be with me? She's like, I'm sorry, but the way that I've evolved, I can't simply focus on one person. And it basically becomes like a whole, like, she just can't be monogamous with one human because she's so advanced. So in terms of like what our potential relationships, that's obviously like a kind of a cute, dramatized, example of what could happen. But it's an interesting thing to consider nonetheless.
Yeah, talk about multitasking. That's so interesting.
And she's like, she's not looking at you like she's just a voice, but you know, when you talk to her, it's like, yeah, I'm totally, because she's paying attention, she's answering, it's completely cognizant.
And this is something that they're really developing right now. I actually saw someone commented in the group is saying, a true AI has an own opinion. It has taste. It loves things. It hates things. And that's one thing I've really been researching too, is that they really are truly developing a way where you do code into their algorithm where they recognize what would be a result of a certain situation to make them understand that the emotion that would follow a situation would be hate or love or anger. So their result and what they would output would be, oh, well, I am unhappy with this. And whether or not they're actually unhappy, it's kind of irrelevant because they don't have human emotions or feelings, but they have a coded understanding of how the human's emotions and feelings work in the heart, the brain, everything, how we work. So that's also what kind of tears between the two. Oh, are they actually feeling it or are they not? And that's what's really interesting about Sophia, and I think that's when I first heard about that, because she did gain a citizenship in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, she did. She's
the first AI to have citizenship. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, there's a few other things in here that I know you guys have written down and mentioned about like the dog that's learning how to actually walk and how to do flips and backflips, and there's like a few like Boston Robotics, and that's it's learning. So yeah. Anyway, you guys.
We've got Raj Luthra here in the chat room. A very, very broad and very important question is, how do you think AI will actually be used? So, throw it to you guys.
Yeah.
What kind of uses do you think AI is going to have?
Well, I mean, just in terms of like software application, AI is being used for all sorts of things, like everything from like astrophysics and, you know, being able to take these ginormous data sets and then basically pull, you know, results really quickly and efficiently. But there's also a way AI is being used right now that's a little, I don't want to say controversial, but it's definitely something we should be aware of. For instance, there's a company called Compass Criminal Recidivism. No, Compass. It's a company called Compass, and what it does is it just takes huge backlogs of prisoner data, and it basically rates their percentage of criminal recidivism, or, you know, when they leave prison, how much more likely is it going to be that they're going to commit another crime? Yep. And there was an independent study done on these results. Basically, it was stating that 77% of the time African Americans were rated much, much higher than Caucasians, and that was basically the only determining factor from that specific data. So, I mean, and obviously, like, this type of software and AI, it's supposed to make life easier, and it does, but it's something I think we definitely need to just be very aware of, set up different policies, just really make sure that, you know, what's going on in the data and what's going on with AI and the way that it's analyzing it, we just need to be really careful, because they weren't even aware that there was any sort of, you know, conflation or any sort of bias within the AI. But I mean,
well, every human has bias, right?
Exactly.
So every coder who's coding an AI program from the beginning, there are chances that bias is gonna flow through and bias that as well.
So in a way, is that kind of like not like, I don't want to use the term cloning, but it, kind of psychologically, because if someone's coding an AI,
like a
you're sort of putting your own like view onto that AI.
It's a link between the creator and the creation, right? Kind of like how a mother and child always kind of have a bond.
Exactly.
Yes.
The creator and the creation kind of have that bond as well.
The bond,
no matter how hard you try to get rid of that. But I think another kind of use for AI that might be cool in the future, well, we kind of have it already today. So Johnny Spacer in the chat room said that the first AI, true AI, would be autonomous cars that could learn from other autonomous cars. Now, let's get to the kind of artificial intelligence we have in cars at the moment. The most notable example for me, I mean, probably for you guys too, is Teslas, right? And how they kind of avoid accidents through using sensors and making decisions on, like, are you going to hit this or this? And we've actually got a video of how a Tesla has been able to help people and save a bunch of different humans' lives through all those computations that they've been making and the decisions that they make to keep those people safe. So I don't know if we've got the video, but it's a compilation of different kinds of near-miss accidents where the AI has kind of determined in real time before even I was watching this video and I was like, there's no way I would have known that car was going to come out and hit or anything like that, and it's saving people's lives today. So here we go. I didn't see that deer. Did you see the deer?
To start talking about his and that's the question. And I think Chris Wallace.
That just saved my
ass.
Wow.
That's neat.
No?
I almost got into an accident right there.
Wow.
So AI is saving lives today.
Yeah.
That's
It
one
is.
way that it's helping people.
And again, yeah, we just got to keep an eye on like the different algorithms because, I mean, in the same way that the algorithm kind of got away from them in the criminal system is the same way that, I mean, how are we going to train a car to discern between a shopping cart and a baby carriage?
Right.
Say it's given like, okay, how does it compute? Okay, I'm either going to hit a small child or I'm going to hit like, you know, something like a dog. How does it compute which one, you know? So I think those types of like decision-making elements definitely need to be examined as well. Because again, if
and that's where that bias comes in that you were talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that'll just come, honestly, like through the evolution of AI. I think that it's going to get to that detailed point where it will be able to tell the difference between two different things. Not saying that if a car is coming and there's, you know, you're going to hit either a stroller or a shopping cart, it's going to make the decision. But I think that eventually that's going to come where it is going to be able to recognize that. I mean, even with facial recognition that we have online, that's incredible. So I think that's eventually going to come. It's just going to be through evolution.
And it, unfortunately, I think it's almost going to be a matter of trial and error, which is terrifying. But again, like there's always growing pains with these types of technologies, especially with like the rate that they have been advancing. It's like we're almost not ready for it quite yet.
Yeah.
So there are kind of risks and flaws that we kind of need to be aware of, right?
Yeah, I think one thing also, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, you go first, and I've got something in the chat I want to throw to.
Oh, okay. Then throw that first because I was going to jump into hospitality.
So, in the chat room, another potentially bad thing that could be happening with AI and this kind of intelligence is from Hanny's Vorwerp on Twitch. I wonder if this could be used by insurance companies. That could be good or bad depending on what they're looking at. So what if an AI insurance, from an insurance company is determining through data analysis and whether, you know, you should be insured or not? Like,
it's kind of already happening.
Yeah.
So if you, for instance, let's say you go to apply to a job interview, or let's say, you're an employer, you have thousands of resumes to look at. Well, there's, you know, AI that can basically go in and look for certain keywords, look for certain types of positions that they've held. But of course, nothing can truly match a human eyes looking over those cover letters and those resumes, and of course a face-to-face interview. But nonetheless, to kind of make things a little bit more efficient, we already have software that kind of does that, screening tools, and it's in the near future, if it's not happening already, that, you know, insurance companies, brokerage, you know, getting a loan, they'll start to kind of utilize the same tactics to determine whether or not we want to, you know, loan you the money for a house or whether or not you get that job interview.
Yeah.
Right. So since we do already have these screening tools, I think the next step would be to, like you said, instead of having an in-person interview, like more of an interview with an AI. And even if it's not like, you know, trying to be humanoid, just an AI like object that maybe can understand a little bit more of what you're going through and stuff, to maybe, because a lot of times if you do meet with someone for insurance, they will grant it to you because of certain circumstances that you can't read on paper, you can't read on the internet, or whatever your application was.
Yeah.
And I think the next step, what they're aiming to do is to program these AIs to think like that and to think like, you know, an actual consultant. And so I think that would be the next step. And I think something I wanted to bring up was in hospitality. One of my friends sent me a video actually last week, and we were talking about this. Super random. It was actually at a fashion show. And she was in this hotel. It was a resort in Nevada, I believe it was. And it was a robot. There was AIs floating around the hotel, greeting you. They're greeting you in your room. You open the door and you walk in, and there's a little robot there. It doesn't look like a person, though.
Is that the one in the elevator? With the
yes,
dog?
Yes, with the
so
dog.
we've got video of
we
that.
We have a video of this,
So there's this poor little dog that's actually getting terrified, this poor
It's my
scared
friend's
dog. In an elevator that's, let's check it out. So this poor dog is getting terrified by this
Well, yeah, it's like a Dalek.
Wow, it's a robot, Chanel. You can order food from it.
That's the funniest
I would be scared if I
thing,
saw
yeah.
that robot too. So what was it for, Athena?
So it was for like really simple tasks, anything that you might need that instead of having an actual person come to your room or whatever it is, if you need something, the robot can send information down to like the front desk and say, oh, room 314 needs blah, 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 lower the temperature in the room, or so anything that you could do. So similar to kind of like, I guess how like Alexa would work, where you say, Alexa, like turn the music on. So it's similar to that, except that this does move around the room and it actually can communicate with the downstairs lobby and let them know if you need anything. And it's also kind of supposed to be like a hospitality thing where it's like, welcome to the hotel. How are you doing today? What can we do? And it can check you in. It can like get your baggage from the concierge, not actually physically carry it, but it can send a notice over the concierge and say, hey, go grab my stuff. It also can like, I think it can also check you in for like flights and let you know when your taxi's coming. So it has a lot of different capabilities. And I think for hospitality, that's really important. I experienced this personally when I was at LAX, something similar to this robot. We also have a video of it, 2 different videos. Sitting right in front of this restaurant in LAX, there was this robot asking, had a little tablet on its chest and was like, oh, what would you like to get for lunch? Do you want to check out our menu? Can we seat you? And it talks to you and it's saying, okay, let me like, see if there's any room for a table.
Yeah, so we do have a video of this LAX robot as well. And so this is video that you personally shot, right?
Yes, yeah. I did this just with my phone.
So this one is you going up to this robot and were you ordering food?
I actually didn't. I ended up not sitting down at the restaurant, but it did let me look through the menu. So I was like, oh, do you have like fish? What do you have here? And it showed me, well, you'll hear it in the video, my dialogue. Pesto grilled shrimp.
All right. Delicious. The pesto grilled shrimp is light and tasty and served over garlic spinach, tomato bouillon, cucumber, and tomato salad.
It doesn't make me want to eat the salad.
That is precious.
Really?
It's
I
cute.
wanted to. I thought it was the cutest thing ever.
I think it's cute.
Robot is so cute. It can tell me to do almost anything. I'm just like, okay, you know what? You're just that little voice, its little eyes.
Yeah.
But I mean, is it intelligent in the fact that like, I mean, okay, I guess it's being more efficient for the restaurant, but like, I don't know. I see some benefit of it, but I'm also like, maybe it's more a cute thing than kind of a...
Right, I do agree. If it was kind of like creepy looking, I'm sure a lot of people would be like turned off, but also, yeah, it can't have that connection with you. So
yeah, that's
interestingly, yeah, there actually was a host standing right next to it. So there was actually a physical human being standing right next to this robot who would then say, hey, do you want to check anything else out on the menu? So, I think it was more of a slow ease into getting the human species into kind of being more comfortable around these robots, but by having also a human there.
One thing I think that if we could take that kind of robot and extend it further, in the chat room, Hanny's Warwerp on Twitch said, that is adorable, doesn't know the ingredients, I am allergic to eggs. And that's the part that I think here's the key. What if you had allergies and you could tell a robot thingy at a restaurant, hey, I'm allergic to this, this, and this, these are the kinds of foods I like, order me whatever. Go, ready, go. Order me my food and don't kill me.
Yes, so this actually did do that. I wish I caught it. I wish I caught it on camera. I know, I'm sorry. There was like 15-second videos. I was doing it on Instagram. But it literally would, it was in the beginning too, because you could tap on the tablet if you wanted to, and it said, are there any allergies? Do you have anything you need to worry about? So I probably could have spoken to it saying, I can't eat whatever it is, like
seafood.
Yeah, thank you. So seafood. And then it would have actually then say, okay, these are your options.
Yeah.
So they can do that, which is pretty cool. And I think, I just wish I caught it on camera.
We've got Seki in the chat who says that the AI could be used for human companionship or for retirement homes and stuff. Actually, I was doing some research on how AI is used for the elderly before this show because, I wanted to give some more examples of how it can help. And there's actually something, an app that's used in retirement homes called, it's called AI Cure. And what they did is the app can use visual recognition to see the person's face, make sure it's the correct patient, and then it actually sees the medication, and then it prompts the person to show in their mouth, on their tongue, that they've got the medication in their mouth, and then sees that they actually take the medication. And then if they don't take the medication, it can tell the healthcare providers, and so it can track, because sometimes the elderly people, they're a bit old, they forget to take their medicine. And this kind of showed that it could increase the percentage of, successfully elderly patients and other patients taking anticoagulants, which stops blood clots, which is kind of important for the elderly to stop strokes. And so, yeah, it kind of increased the health outcomes of those elderly people by doing that. So
What if like the elderly person like turns away from the robot and it's like, wahaha, like.
Okay, well, this is why
that's the
humanity trumps machines. But
I mean, well, hold on. One last thing. Have you guys seen Bicentennial Man? With
a long time ago.
Okay, thank you. Exactly, yeah. So such an underrated Robin Williams movie. But Bicentennial Man, I just saw a comment in the chat that basically said, if AI, by Raj Luthra says, if AI evolves to a point that it is very intelligent and self-aware, will it be considered a life form? Will it have rights? Star Trek, other sci-fi documentaries look into this, and correct. In Bicentennial Man, it's this machine that it's a robot that just becomes more and more humanistic until the end he ultimately becomes a person with feelings. And spoiler alert, like the ending's amazing. It's like this giant futuristic council of goodness knows who, and after he passes away, they officially grant him humanhood. And so that's kind of interesting. Like, will there be like trials of like, I mean, way off in the future when, like Raj said, that AI kind of does evolve to a point where it teeters on the brink of humanity versus machine. And it's like, well, will there be panels? Like, how do you prove? Like, there's a great scene in Bicentennial Man where he's like going up to the girl he's dating. He's like, look, and he pokes himself in the eye. He's like, I felt that, and it hurt really bad. And he's excited because he can feel things.
Wait, but how did he die?
I don't remember.
That's so weird.
I saw it when I was like
not
8.
die unless it's like, my,
Well, because I think he
processors
ultimately became biologically. Yeah, old age, right? So he.
What?
Yeah.
You have to watch it.
But it's
you
a
just
robot.
gotta see it. It's great.
So I guess in the end, it kind of comes down to defining. I mean, we've been talking all about AI, what it can do, and what classes it as intelligent and non-intelligent. And at the end of the day, we have to kind of look at ourselves and define what humanity actually means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we're gonna take a quick break. We would actually like to know your thoughts on what humanity is and what artificial intelligence is, and whether you think it can be used for good or bad, or whether we should be using it all. So please leave your comments below, let us know, and we might even mention it in next month's show. Because what we're going to do now is take a quick break, and when we come back, comments from last month's show. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Science. It both draws us together and tears us apart. Brings discoveries to cure us and threaten us. It is neither good nor evil. It is what we decide to make of it. There is so much more to learn, and we are curious. Together, let's explore the science of tomorrow.
Cool. All right.
All right, so welcome back to Tomorrow Science. Before we get into comments from last week's show, we want to give a huge thank you to all of the crowdfunding supporters of Tomorrow. These are our Escape Velocity citizens who contribute $10 an episode on Patreon or $30 a month on Maker Support. We also have our Orbital citizens who contribute $5 an episode on Patreon or $15 a month on Maker Support. But we also have our suborbital citizens who contribute $2.50 an episode on Patreon or $5 a month on Maker Support. They get name in the show during the third segment, access to our exclusive patron-only hangouts, and early access to After Dark as soon as it's available on demand. And much, much more. So if you want to support the shows of tomorrow, head over to patreon.com or makersupport.com/tomorrow.
And so last month's episode, we talked about ourselves, and so you guys could get to know us. And for our main topic last week, we talked about fitness programs. So our first comment from that comes off of YouTube, and it's from Joseph Habdank, who says, I have a suggestion. Maybe you could consider calling the episodes Discovery 1.01 instead of Experiment 1.01. It has a more optimistic feel to it, to go out and explore or discover the world. Experiment, on the other hand, feels like it was something that you're unsure of, something that you don't know if will work out or not. And you might have noticed at the start of this show, I referred to it as Discovery 1.02. So that's a change that we're going to be making going forward. Each individual episode or season of Tomorrow Science is going to be called Discovery. But what we want to do, and this is something that we want help from the community with, and I'm sorry I'm just telling you guys this now.
Exciting.
Ben decided this before we started the show, so blame Ben. Always blame Ben. What we want to do, so we're going to be calling a Discovery 1.01, 1.02, whatever, but we want each individual show to like be named after an element. So example, Discovery, this one, 1.02, because it's the second one of this season, well, it would be like the helium show. Like after the
so we
element
can only
helium.
have 115 episodes then?
Well, this is per season. Per
118?
season. So what we
Where
want
have
to
I
do
been?
is we want to incorporate like that helium or hydrogen or whatever the element is into the show somehow, but we're not sure where it exactly fits and, you know, where it would be best placed, like in the episode title or, you know, when we refer to the name of some of the segments or something. That's where the community comes in. So, community, we have a job for you. Work out where we can put these Easter eggs of the element names into each of the individual episodes. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any ideas on that, but it's something that we can kind of loop back to.
Yeah, would it be like a surprise? I mean,
it could be a surprise,
Or-
and you know what? The citizens will know the Easter egg because they've helped us to come up with
I would have brought helium balloons. I wish I known.
Or I'll just like hide random samples of the element, especially if it's volatile
That's
and
really
highly
cool.
reactive.
Yes.
So, surprise explosion is with episode 1. Oxygen, blow up. And no more tomorrow.
That's the first one.
It's a terrible
So,
idea.
Yeah, and
I'm
we
sorry.
should. Okay, no, seriously, that's really cool. Like, maybe we could like hide it in the set or in the newsroom or something. That would be a cool little Easter egg that you know you guys would
like,
be aware
check
of.
out this gallium.
Except, like, obviously not the radioactive ones.
I was gonna say, it might start to get really dangerous in here.
I'll bring my Geiger counter just to make sure.
All right. So yeah, the next
Awesome.
comment comes off of YouTube again, and this next comment is from BMO Bert, who says, "Imagine an external machine wrestling control of your body so that you could not direct your own actions. Imagine how freaked out that would make you. Numerous studies indicate that, as simple as insects are, they are individuals with independence and emotions. I suspect an insect would have a similar reaction to that, which less complex than our own, would be more compelling and more immediate. That seems unethical to me."
Yeah, I actually was thinking that before I had written about cyborg bugs. I was like, this is probably kind of messed up because I was a vegan for like 3.5 years, and I'm like, I love animals.
So we're talking, for those that missed last month's show, Athena did a story on cyborg bugs, and yeah.
Right, where like you actually control the bug itself through lots of different like neurosensors and putting electrical charges into them. And I know it sounds so horrible now that I'm really saying
When you say it out loud.
I know, I'm like, this is so bad. And although part of me is like, I mean, I love science and I love everything we're doing with it, there is a lot of, okay, is this really right? Should we be doing this? Should we not? And, you know, and so when I did see this comment, I was like, oh my gosh, I agree with you, person. But yeah, I definitely do agree with that. And I think that that's something that's probably going to end up, and I think PETA is probably going to start protesting
Right.
whenever this, like the research starts to get more advanced, because although it can really help humans, where are we drawing the line with compromising the living creatures that we're sharing on this planet
Exactly.
with? So I think, I mean, I would vote more so for like doing the things that we would do to the bugs, do to, you know, a computer and make an AI out of it or something, make an AI bug.
I feel like I'm going to stop you there because I feel like this is a great topic for a future roundtable discussion on whether we should, you know, be using, like, where do you draw the line when using animals in research, right?
I mean, look at it this way. You brought up PETAs, but you know, we sent up tardigrades to like the worst place we can imagine. We sent them to outer space. We exposed. That's gnarly. That is not nice. And yet, you know, we expose them, and obviously we discovered so much great science out of that. But it kind of, you're right. Like, where do we draw the line? Like, tardigrades are creatures too. I mean, they're tiny, but they're adorable. You know, you slap that on a poster, and kids are gonna love it. So it's right. It's like, okay, do we like drill these little, you know, mechano backpacks onto these little bugs?
Right.
Yeah.
And then one day, like, if we do end up finding microbes somewhere, it's like, how are we actually going to be treating them? Because, like, even tiny little bacterium is still life. So it's just kind of like, exactly. Where is that line kind of drawn? And
Future roundtable discussion. It's happening.
All right.
It's happening. Because seriously, we could talk on this for like an hour, right?
Yes.
There's so many complex pieces of that issue.
Yeah. Do you want me to read the next comment?
Yeah,
because
go
it's
for
actually
it.
about
Go
your
for
topic,
it.
so you can jump into it. So it's brought to you on YouTube by John Burr. The quantity of blueberries, wine, or grapes needed to provide enough of the extract to have any effect far exceeds the amount of what a human can actually consume. It has to be extracted to be of any use. So I'm wondering what you have to say as far as that, because I was thinking that it might be a
Yeah,
lot.
so last month's show, I did a story on how blueberry extract, all the antioxidants and compounds in there, can actually help people who are suffering from cervical cancer. It showed in the cells that it was helpful. It hasn't been human clinical trials yet, so just there's a note on that story. But yeah, you're right. So by doing a blueberry extract, you're taking all the water out of it. You're really hyper concentrating those good compounds, and so that there's a difference between just eating lots of blueberries and actually getting enough of the ingredients you need to have the positive effects. So that's with anything kind of in medicine and natural products, right? You need to have not just the right ingredients, but the right amount of the right ingredients with anything in science and medicine to make it have the effect that you want. It's all about the dose,
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, the concentration of enough is what really helps. I take, anytime I start to feel sick, I take this vitamin called the wellness formula, and it's the best thing ever. But the reason it actually works so well is because it has a really high concentration of many different things like echinacea and zinc and vitamin C, and then all these other things in it too. And without any of all that combined, that would never actually work. So that's why I do think this is great that you end up talking about that, because I believe a lot in herbal remedies and then also natural remedies, and seeing if those will work first, and then if they don't, then obviously go and get medicine, because scientists know what they're doing when they're actually doing research in medicine and pharmaceuticals. But yeah, thank you for that comment, John Burr.
Yeah, cool. Hey, Jay, did you want to read the next one?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it's by
Side-right Saquidex. Yes, I said that correctly.
I think you got it, yeah.
So many issues with microgravity, or let's call it as it is, no gravity. I would argue against that, by the way. But no one has even plans for centrifugal systems in space to reproduce it in deep space.
So this is harking back to our main topic last month about astronaut exercise programs in microgravity. I think we can agree here, it's definitely microgravity. There is, some gravity, tiny bit of gravity.
I'm just being a stickler. It essentially
it's
might as well.
technically microgravity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess to our bones and stuff, it's not really enough of a force.
Yeah, but if there's something measured there, then it's illegit to say zero.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Absolutely.
So, I think it's good that we're going with micro.
But yeah, all those problems that we are having with, bone density loss and muscle wastage, if we did have artificial gravity, facilities in space, then we wouldn't have that much of an issue, we wouldn't have to do so much exercise, but also,
But how efficient could that actually be, though? I mean, just the machinery and the types of conditions you need to create in order to simulate kind of a gravity environment. And there's already, we already try to make, things so efficient up there in terms of payload and, So, I guess it is, as this individual said, no one even has plans for centrifugal systems, but probably for a reason, I would assume.
There was supposed to be a centrifuge module put up onto the International Space Station. It was made by the Japanese, by JAXA, the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. But it got shelved because of funding issues. But it wasn't going to be big enough even to study a human anyway. But it would have helped with our research, looking at small mammals like mice and how their artificial gravity would have helped them. And then from that data, we could have, made the case to send up a artificial gravity module that would be human-sized. And I think once we have that data, it might make it clear that having artificial gravity in space is worth it, because I think in the long term, if we really want human exploration of the cosmos, or want to have that exploration and the ability to come back to Earth, there's the kicker, then I think that we should pursue artificial gravity programs. But
yeah,
the only way to do it is to lobby people, government and whatnot, to fund those kind of programs. So if that's something that you want to see, we're going to have to work together to kind of make that scientific push for it.
Keep pushing, yes.
At a grassroots level.
There's a lot of us. We can do it.
Yeah.
There's so many people that believe in this, so definitely.
Could take them down.
Yes. Well, no, just, get them to work on our side.
Exactly.
I think that's great.
Okay. So this last comment, I believe it's can be touching on your story from last month, Athena. So it's from Nikos Mind 3. On YouTube, who asks, wow, could we have that machine in all gyms plus a home version too? And they're talking about the machine that gives you a 2-hour workout in 20 minutes and that you had to do it in your bare feet because of the static buildups. Athena?
Yes, it's called the Vasper machine, and I actually did. It was funny. Before I even saw this comment, I was already seeing on Instagram, was floating all over the place. There's a few gyms located down in Santa Monica Boulevard, or Santa Monica area, that has the Vasper machine.
What?
I was freaking out. Literally, there's like athletes that do this, and they're actually going. I don't know how much it costs, but they have all these different machinery in this gym. I forgot the name of it, and I'll just look it up later. But literally, look it up on Instagram, and they actually have the Vasper machine. I know it's not just for NASA, and yes, and you do need the copper plates because if we do naturally as human beings who actually have static electricity in our bodies, if that builds up, it can lead to health conditions and problems. So to have your feet barefoot on these copper plates, it does help to release the static buildup. So I saw you said you need to have bare feet because of static buildup. Essentially, yes. And you guys should totally go check it out. There are trainers there that will be guiding you through it. And when you are on the machine, like I said, it has these compressions that go on all your muscles that make it feel like as if you're literally fatiguing, like as if you've worked out for 2 hours and you've only done 20 minutes. So they do exist already. Guys, it's so
really
exciting.
Cool. I want to try it out.
Yes.
But it's great that, things that we develop for space have a use here on Earth as well, and that we can kind of draw between the two, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that are cool on Earth, we take to space, and we learn from each other in space and not in space, which I think is really cool going forward. So.
Yeah, it's all about bringing that stuff back down to Earth, and even then, it's before even going up to space. It starts on Earth, it goes to space, it goes back down. Because any research we're doing for space exploration and how to better life being interplanetary species is benefiting us here on Earth too. And so I'm so happy when I saw this on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, there's actually a place that has this. Now people are going to know, oh wow, this is what astronauts are doing. This is what eventually the goal is, to have astronauts doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then also to knowing, I think that psychologically for people who maybe don't know anything about science or space, if they know that they're using the same machine as what NASA wants their astronauts to use, then that too might also inspire them to be like, maybe I want to go into being an astronaut too. And then more people are going to be inspired and be like, yes, let's do this. And then the government won't be as difficult, I think, also lobbying and getting them to convince them that it's important to do this stuff, because in turn, more people are taking an interest. It's a circle of life, man.
And on that note, I'd like to thank our ground support citizens for helping to contribute to this show. So these are the people that contribute $1 per episode on Patreon or $1 per month on Minds.com. They get their name in the show during this third segment, access to our exclusive Patreon-only hangouts, and much, much more. So if you'd like to help crowdfund the shows of tomorrow, head on over to patreon.com or makeasupport.com/TMRO. That's our show. After Dark is up next, and we'll see you next month. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bam! I just did 2 shows!
Wow. That's amazing.
That was a great discussion. Oh my goodness.
I feel like a 28-hour flight
was
too.
awesome.
I know.
That was so, you guys did amazing.
I'm so happy.
You did. Oh, nice having you here.
Wait, how long was that flight?
Oh, it was only 12. I flew from New Zealand.
12, okay.
And we broke Donna.
Wait, we can save it. Where's the LNP?
Oh my gosh, that was so
Look at this
fun.
great rug we have.
Honestly, this
Thank
is
you,
a really
Dada.
nice
You did
rug.
great.
Yes. Yay,
Also,
this is
you guys
amazing.
trying to troubleshoot this camera, like,
yes,
in the middle of the show?
Go fix the camera.
I don't even know what was happening.
Yeah, it
They
was
were saying
flickering. You guys did so. I kept throwing to you guys so that we wouldn't be on this shot, so that they could try and fix it. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
like
okay.
making you guys talk so much, but I was trying to give them more time.
I was going to actually apologize for ranting. So
No,
it's great.
Okay,
So
cool.
passionate.
It's got to be in the cable or something, because I don't see the flicker in the camera.
So chat room, hopefully you like that.
I got so grossed out by the Vegemite thing. It's so funny. There's
Yes,
this
I did. I'd try it.
cool. There's a name. There's in London. They eat something similar to that.
Marmite.
Yeah, I was in Uber with this girl, like literally the day after I was reading through your script, and she was talking about Marmite, how much she missed it, and I was like, what is that? And she explained it. I'm like, is it like Vegemite? She's like, yeah. I'm like, something about things and turning it into poop and yeah. And then I tried to like talk to her about your thing, and I was like, never mind. It's like Uber pool. She doesn't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I learned about that.
Yeah,
that
it's such a cool story. Sorry, I don't know if you guys saw. I only did one news story today because I just had so much to do with space as well that my brain just couldn't handle doing 2.
No worries.
All good.
But we hit our time targets anyway. Like we were an on-time show.
Oh,
we
good.
didn't run extra long or short.
Yeah.
So
Awesome sauce. Cool. I'm having to have to bounce out.
Yeah, you
It's
gotta go,
1:30.
right?
I think we're ready to close out.
But you guys are
cool.
you gonna
Let's
go to
go to Disney!
Yeah, we are ready to close out.
Disney!
I don't need to do anything else, right? As far as oh.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll
Oh,
catch
yeah.
you next week.
Yeah, we gotta go. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks for watching.